Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Beard Blather 250. Yay! Here's where we hear all the noise of Carnival and New Year's equipment. 250. In Beard Blather 112 on 13 April 2022, we spoke of the Preference Cascade. Everybody's talking about it this week. We're kind of like 2 years ahead. And how the bullcrap of the culture wars, from trans insanity to ecological terrorism to Marxism in academia, was beginning to show cracks. And of how those cracks were going to lead to the inexorable demise of the ridiculous foundations of so much idiocy. Then, a few months later, on Beard Blather 131 on 4 September 2022, we discuss Biden's failure cascade that would lead just as inexorably to the failure of the Senile Curmudgeon's experiment in misgovernment. Today, both cascades are joining in a one-in-a-lifetime deluge that is wiping Wokism from the face of the earth at increasing speed. Nobody buys their shit anymore. The desperate attempts by the Biden White House to create a legacy while they continue to appease Iran and sell pardons to every lowlife with enough bank to afford them finds no traction. Every attempt to turn every cloud into a climate Armageddon is met with derision, and the cost of energy has put such pressure on the pockets of citizens from Virginia to Bavaria that a new wave of energy sense is all but inevitable. The absurdity of wind turbine forests is crumbling thanks to lack of wind, and solar panels are being exposed for the absurdity they are. Just a means to line the pockets of crony capitalists and friends of Joe. Enjoy the next 4 years as we inch our way from the idiocracy the Democrats hoisted on us. And keep your eyes on academia. The rolling 20s for them are over. Pull up a chair, enjoy the show. This is Sol Montez Bradley, the largest human repository of useless information from my golden cage in Florida, where, by the way, it's so fucking windy. I tried to go to the beach, and I had to run across the street to fetch my balls. Oh, this is almost hurricane level winds. So if we have any problems with the internet, I shall blame the winds. And right next to me, Thomas Victor, still hiding the results of a shaving mishap. Yes, no, he hasn't gone apeshit for COVID. He'll tell you later. This is a completely different thing and will probably be gone, hopefully, next week as nature corrects the mistake. From California, the line of fruits and nuts and flakes and cheese.
Did you say fruits, nuts, lakes, and tits?
Well, that too. Although I reserved that last moniker for Titsville in Florida, that earned the moniker a long time ago, right next to the Space Coast, actually part of the Space Coast. And it's been Titsville forever. You probably know it as Titusville. But Titusville was home to the first nudist beach in Florida. And it was in a very isolated place in a state park. So that's why they chose it for the first nudie beach. And because of the presence of the nudie beach, ever since the 60s, it's been known as Titsville.
Not a single person you want to see naked ever goes to a nudist beach.
Hell no, I learned that. I learned that 30, 40 years ago, the first time I went to a nudie beach, and I saw all of these women wiping the sand clear with their tits.
Well, my mother, my sister, and I were walking on the beach in it was oh, I forgot where this was. We would drive from our house in Rijswijk, the Netherlands, and go out to the beach, and there were all these old German bunkers from World War II where the Germans had their useless cannons facing, preparing for an invasion that never happened. But there was a nudist beach in front of us, and there was a man walking in front of us, and he basically had a G-string on, and
ouch.
He had a huge belly, and massive spare tires, and a
now I know it's not me.
And a completely flat behind, and little thin chicken legs, and he was walking in front of me
with a G-string.
And my mother said, the nudist beach is right up ahead. Watch what he does when he crosses the line. The second he crossed the line, he whipped off his G-string, and he was the only guy there. It was a cold, cloudy day, and he was like looking at us like, fill your eyes with this dream man, this man of your dreams, and
feast your eyes on me.
God help us. It was nauseating and totally unnecessary. I know that the Europeans accuse us of being all uptight about sex, but I don't think we are. I think that there's certain
the other way around.
Well, I think that there's certain communities in the United States that are uptight about sex, but it isn't real. For example, the people with the highest consumption of internet pornography, the state with the highest consumption of internet pornography is Utah. Now, Utahns are supposed to be very religious, upright people, like Mitt Romney. But whenever people make a big production out of their morality, whether it be religious morality or political morality, immediately that they're doing all sorts of stuff behind the scenes, whether it's consuming pornography or insider trading.
They're trying to misdirect.
Yeah, and the last people in the world we want to take any kind of lessons from are the Europeans. They've been screw ups for centuries now, if not millennia. If you go back to the beginnings of European history, what do you have? You have the Visigoths, you have the Vandals, you have the Vikings.
I have some of those.
Yeah, I mean, these are people who basically committed mass murder as a sport.
Yes,
the Romans,
I admire that in them.
Well, I mean that's okay. You wouldn't want to be basically a victim of the Visigoths and the Vandals.
No. But you see, being a descendant of the Visigoths, I have to say that their penchant for eliminating the weaklings called the human gene pool, and thus gave us some of the most glorious years and centuries in Europe. And ever since we stopped doing that, we ended up with this kind of shit. Yeah, the subject of tonight's. You see, if the Visigoths were around, these people wouldn't be here.
Well, there's a vast continuum between the Visigoths and woke Democrats. You don't have to carry out, the extermination of entire peoples simply to get rid of woke people. You can vote them out. I saw what the hell is Murkowski? Murkowski was on one of the mainstream media shows warning about the upcoming fascism, and the fascism and authoritarianism was, in her own words, people primarying people like her. So according to her,
if you don't like me, you're a fascist.
Yeah, according to her, the democratic process, which is to primary her, is authoritarianism.
Yes.
And it's like it's pure madness. But we don't have to exterminate people the way the Visigoths did. We don't have to smell the way the Visigoths did, and we
Well,
can
they
we
do
can
that in
vote people
California
out of
already.
we can vote people out of office the way we did in 2024, and the way we're going to continue doing. Apparently,
Yeah. Uh, what can I tell you? I kind of like the Visigoths in contest. In context, yeah, I don't think that today we should bring them back from oblivion. Um, but considering the times they lived in, they were cool, and they were a significant advance on the previous stage, and they gave us essentially the conquest of Hispania. They like to call it the reconquest, but it wasn't such. The conquest of Hispania and the golden age of Spain, what is called the Siglo de Oro. That is all a consequence of what started with the Visigothic kings in Covadonga. So I do think we owe them a little bit for what we've become in the most positive sense.
well,
On the other hand, yeah, they killed entire peoples, and so did everybody else in their time.
one of the greatest novels ever written is one called The Far Arena by a guy named Richard Ben Sapir, and it's about an oil company that's drilling far up in the Arctic Circle, and they dig up a Roman gladiator, and they don't know he's a Roman gladiator. They just know he's frozen in a block of ice, and near in the area there just happens to be a Russian who's been experimenting in um, whether or not it's possible to freeze the dying for the future, like thaw them out in the future once they've found
Right.
a cure for their disease. And so they thaw this guy out, and he wakes up, he's alive. And the only person they can find who speaks fluent Latin is a young, um, I guess, what are the religions in Norway? Who has nuns?
The
Do the
Catholics.
Pardon me?
The Catholics.
Yeah, I guess you must be a Catholic,
Probably a young priest or something. Most priests don't speak Latin anymore. But
right?
if I needed a young person to speak fluent Latin, I would probably find them in the halls of the Vatican.
Right. So they bring this young nun because she's fluent in Latin, and it's really interesting because the book has a big debate about the Roman Empire, and her position is they did like okay, when the gladiator wakes up, he's a Roman, and you know when one of the nurses is helping him, like she brings in his dinner, he just kind of casually gropes her butt because that's what they did in Rome, and he doesn't understand. At one point, nobody believes that he was the premier gladiator of his age because they can't find any evidence of him. And he's telling them it's because I was found guilty of committing an offense against the gods, and they wiped out my records. But so they set up a contest between him and a modern day swordsman, and he absolutely slaughters the guy, and does really horrible things to him, and then he can't understand why everybody's upset at him. And the Catholic nun is she wants us to concentrate on all the technological and scientific and everything brought to us by the Roman Empire, and not really concentrate on the extermination of the European lion, the slavery, just all of that. And it's an interesting sort of philosophical argument because personally, I can't separate the two, and I'm not ready to say that the Roman Empire shouldn't have ever existed. But on the other hand, I'm not upset that it finally fell, because it was like the Aztecs,
Yeah,
um,
one day you and I are going to discuss whether the Roman Empire fell or evolved. Because I think we are the Roman Empire.
yeah, I mean, it's obviously true that we did evolve, but there was the sacking of Rome after all. So the Roman Empire fell, pretty much like Assad's Syria, and you could make an argument that Assad's Syria evolved, and that the transitional government is full of Assad's former government officials, but Assad.
I am going to bite my lip and reserve it for the next discussion. When the barbarians sacked Rome, the head of the empire was in Constantinople.
Oh yeah. I mean, I understand the history of Rome.
A little losing skirmish on the outskirts of the empire. It's not the fall of the empire.
Well,
but I would propose that we are Rome.
no, we're not Rome. I mean, not. I mean, it evolved.
Yeah.
It evolved into something else. It's like saying,
yeah, we're not the same as Rome in the 400s.
It's like saying we're Lucy from Africa. We're not. We evolved from Lucy, and now they're starting to think from many other creatures. It's like saying we're Neanderthals. We're not. We evolved from a mixture of Neanderthals and Cro-Magnons. We're not Cro-Magnons.
Yes.
When you evolve, you change into something else. So we're not Rome. We may have. I mean, we definitely evolved from Rome, but we're not Rome. What the Romans called democracy, for example, wasn't democracy, not by our standards. We evolved. The Europeans evolved to a certain extent. The Europeans, I think,
no, they're involving.
They're devolving. Involving.
It's okay. Not a revolution, it's an involution.
Well, if you scratch Europeans, you still find a lot of savagery right below the surface, yep. But it's mixed with this strange beta male desire to commit suicide, and national suicide. I mean, not individual suicide, and. I mean, okay. I saw a documentary about the son of the Nazi Hans Frank. Hans Frank was hanged after the Nuremberg trials. Yep. He was directly involved in, everything that the Nazis did against everybody else. Hans Frank was one of the architects, and this guy was saying that he was the only one of the children. There were 5 children, I believe. All the others said, "Oh, he was innocent. He was a scapegoat. He was this, he was that." And this son said he had no problem accepting the fact that his father was guilty, because he'd always hated his father. And he commissioned a statue in Germany to commemorate the crimes that the Nazis committed, and it's a crocodile perched on a giant teardrop. And if you look closely, you see the teardrop is coming from the crocodile. So it's a statue, commemorating the German crocodile tears, as he said. And he basically said, Germans haven't changed at all since the Nazi era. I think they have.
No, I don't. I don't. The passivity of the German populace may lead you to believe that they're not capable of the atrocities committed by the Nazis. However, it was the passivity of the German populace that permitted the Nazis to commit atrocities.
Yeah, but I think it would be impossible for someone during this era and in the future to set up extermination camps in Germany. I think it's impossible for the German military to start conquering its neighbors. I think that's never going to happen again.
Well, no. Well, that's not going to happen now. But is it in them? Yes. If the opportunity arose, they would do it.
Well, okay, what are they going to use? I mean,
Not now. But what I'm saying is, if the opportunity arose, if there were, if the situation in Europe evolved in a different way, if the conditions were there, they would fucking do it in a heartbeat. The conditions are not there, so right now they're not going to.
Okay, so you're saying if there was inflation and Germany had just lost a world war and been blamed for the world war and unemployment was going through the roof?
Not exactly. Not exactly, because I'm not talking about a repetition of the same conditions. If the conditions were there for the Germans to take an assertive militaristic role, they would do it in a fucking heartbeat. And they're doing it right now through the European Union. The Germans have managed to do to Europe with the euro what they could not do with the Panzer.
Well, but that's
and they're essentially using Europe as a colony.
Yeah, but the European Union doesn't have extermination camps.
No, but it could. But it supports the extermination of Jews in the Middle East.
It does.
It promotes anti-Semitism.
It does, but in order for the Germans to do it all over again, they have to build the extermination camps themselves, and that's never going to happen again. I mean,
I don't know. Nobody thought it would happen the first time around.
Yeah, but that was close to 90 years ago, and
and 95 years ago, nobody thought it would be possible anyway.
Yeah, but that was okay, you mentioned the COVID situation. I accidentally shaved off half my beard, and I'm not going to show anyone what I look like without a beard. So I'm going to grow the beard out again, and I'm going to wear this until it grows out enough for me to take this off.
Fair enough, kind sir.
So when the COVID lockdowns and masking and all of that first came out, there were people saying that this was a test, and that, if we failed the test, then the government was seeing if they could make us all into brainless followers who would do exactly what we said.
Yeah.
And I disagreed, because Americans are, as a culture, willing to give everybody a chance to our own, what's the opposite of a benefit? Our own detriment. So we allowed illegal immigration up until it became this nightmare, and then we turned on a dime, and now we're saying deport them all. But the reason we allowed that illegal immigration is because we're willing to give people a chance. We allowed the governments of the federal government and the states to tell us we need to wear masks, we need to social distance, we need to do lockdowns. We allowed all that to happen. These are all one-time things. We're never going to allow the government to do to us again what it did during the COVID era. It's never going to happen again. And people who say it's going to happen again, it's not going to happen again as long as the people who lived through the COVID era are still alive.
Now I agree. I was waiting for you to
happen again. But see, the reason Americans turned on leftists during the last election was because we had in good faith, when they said we need this, we need that, we need this kind of ruling done for transsexuals, we need this kind of ruling. Americans agreed because we tend to not really want confrontations. It's not that we're passive, it's that we're willing to give generally Americans, one of our characteristics is we're willing to give people the benefit of the doubt. It was abused, and that's why there was this massive backlash against it all in the last election. And this is basically, this is why I'm always optimistic about this country, that our death knell has been, written multiple times. And I think we're about to enter a golden era. I really do. The Army Navy game, it was a pretty amazing moment. Yeah, with all these people that are going to go into the Trump administration, and you're doing something right when Lisa Murkowski is complaining about it, and she's not saying I'm going to stand up against it. She's just complaining about it because she knows Musk told her, get in line or I'm going to fund a massive primary opponent against you. And that's democracy. That's
that's how it works. Whether she likes it or not, she can go pound sand.
Yeah.
Let me say that in general terms, I agree with what you're saying. I had to wait until you finished the idea, because if you say, we're never going to fall for this shit again, and my first reaction is, yes, we will. But then you expanded, not for as long as people who live through this shit this time are alive and kicking. And I agree. Most people who went through this madness of COVID hysteria are not going to do it again. They're not going to stay home. They're not going to close their businesses. They're going to rebel every which way because they already know where that leads. 30 years from now, they'll do it again, and they're going to have to learn their own lesson. Another one that it's lasted much longer than COVID and caused immensely more harm than COVID is the green energy bullshit. Never mind whether gas cars are going to exist after 2035. Yes, they are. Even if gruesome dies of acid indigestion. What they have done to us collectively in the past 15 years with the promotion of green energy and the destruction of cheap, reliable energy, it's worse than COVID. To take a shower, a warm shower, that is, in Denmark, Sweden, northern Germany, is $5 a pop, just to fuel the water heater, not counting the cost of water itself. There is now been a dramatic decrease of energy available in that region because the massive jungles of windmills are standing idle for lack of wind. There's no wind, therefore there is no electricity. Therefore, the little electricity there is, as it cannot satisfy demand, goes up through the roof, and the cost of electricity is shot up another 100%.
Well,
how long before people realize that we cannot destroy the countryside and eliminate electricity from our lives at the same place, at the same time, while killing every business and every family budget with energy costs?
Well, I mean, this is Norway. So the Norwegians, I mean, they get all their money from oil. So, I mean, this is like moral preening in the worst possible way, where
Don't worry, because in Germany it's even worse. The headline here is and this situation is absolute shit.
Yeah.
Eh, eh, and that refers to both Norway and Germany, where they dismantled the nuclear power stations, and now they're buying electricity from France, 80% of which is nuclear.
But see, what's interesting about all these people, it may change. I don't know. I can't predict. I lived in Norway. I visited, I think, most Western European countries except for Portugal. Um, and I missed out on our family's trip to Spain, which I hear wasn't, I didn't miss
I'll take
much.
you there.
Nah, I
You'll
don't
have
think
the
so.
time of your life.
I don't think I will. Um, but the Europeans are all about differentiating themselves from the United States. And they're all about moral superiority in the weirdest way, because it's like they're congratulating themselves on the fact that they invented fascism, and that they were proud fascists until we came in and smashed them flat, which is the weirdest thing. And they're pointing to our country and saying that the federalist who we just elected is a fascist, and they should know because they used to be fascists. And it's like, but we were never fascists. Um, I mean, the Dem-
Well,
the
Roosevelt.
Democrats have pushed their party right up to the point where it's starting to bleed into the barrier. It's starting to pass the barrier between all collectivism and fascism. And you know, when you get to things like debanking and the obsession with race and the well the institutionalized racism against white people, for example, then you're into fascism. And it's I don't know, Europe. I used to love Western Europe, and now I have no desire. I used to just, I love the food, I love the views, I love the terrain, I loved all of that. And now that I'm spending a lot of time on politics, I just can't really see myself going back, because there's so much. I've reached the age where I can't spend any time discussing politics with people who are off their rockers, and who say, like,
Welcome
okay,
to the club.
well, today I used to listen to this channel a lot, and I'm listening to it less and less. They're accusing the Israelis of destroying the opportunity to have Syria come into the Western fold, because the Israelis are they've bombed the majority of Assad's weapons, and they offer no evidence for this, but they said that the new government is already turning to Russia. There's no evidence of that either. And as you and I were talking about last night, five Druze Muslim villages in Syria just voted unanimously to be annexed by Israel. So,
Yeah.
and
Let,
and
let me let me show you a map of the area you're talking about. Eh, This in blue is Israel. Then you have north of Israel, Lebanon, and east of Israel, Syria. There is a yellow area which used to be the demilitarized zone, separating the forces of Israel and Syria. That is now being occupied by Israel after some rogue militias attacked the UN soldiers. Israel came in. They fought alongside UN soldiers to protect them, and then they occupied the thing because the UN can no longer perform their duties there. And in pink, with blue dots, is an area occupied by Druze. And the blue dots are the towns.
Oh, so
And
it's 10, not 5.
Well,
It's 10.
five towns is what I'm going to show you next. These are more than 5. And there are smaller outlets as well. But the 5 largest towns, which would comprise 70% of these dots, had a gathering. And in the gathering, they decided to ask Israel to be annexed. They want to be annexed right next to the Druze in the Golan Heights,
Mm-hmm.
and become a part of the same political unit. So now we have the Druze asking for Israel to annex them. So much for that.
Yeah,
and if you interview, Druze living in the Golan under Israeli occupation, now have you noticed how some people are saying no, Israel annexed the Golan? No, that was years ago, years and years ago.
yeah.
And President Trump recognized that annexation and recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan in 2018. It's not a recent development.
Well, also, okay, I'm optimistic about Syria. I want to give the man formerly known as Abu Muhammad al-Jilani, I want to give him a chance. But that doesn't mean Israel is required to do that. Israel is fighting for its very existence. So I have no problem with the Israelis completely demolishing the Air Force, the Navy, and the weapons depots of the Assad regime. And as far as I know, I haven't heard a peep out of the Syrians saying the Israelis need to stop this.
They're complaining to the UN following the knee-jerk reactions. Oh, they're breaking my toys. Well, screw you. I'm more sanguine regarding HTS. There are 2 ways this could work. Syria becomes a ethnic, multi-religious state with everybody living in peace and singing Kumbaya, or it becomes a multi-ethnic, multi-religious state with everybody at each other's throat. I happen to believe the latter is the most likely scenario. I don't think that these people will manage to form a government of unity that will last any significant amount. I also think that there isn't a party in Syria right now with the capabilities to impose its will on the rest.
Well, also,
and that creates a kind of like a precarious equilibrium. HTS cannot become ISIS because the rest won't allow it.
Yeah, and okay, the FDS has the SDF has the U.S. and the Gulf Arabs behind it. The YPG have who do they have behind them? Us and the Gulf Arabs.
To a degree, because there are too many communists in there.
Right, but the thing about Syria, what makes Syria unique is that the Assad regime targeted everybody without exception. The
Yep.
Assad family were the only people who they didn't target. They targeted Alawites, which is what Assad,
Which is what they were.
they were,
Assad was
and
the leader of the Alawites.
and the Syrians experienced something. Okay, the prison that they broke into and liberated the prisoners from. I forgot the name already. Sayan, something like
Uh,
that. It's a.
Sayada. Yeah.
It looks like
Now you got me thinking Sayada. But yeah, no, I know which one you're talking about.
it looks like
What
the
I forgot.
emblem of the Mercedes. It's got three
Yeah.
lobes, and that thing was astonishing in its creative savagery. And I don't think anybody, with the exception of the people who experienced the Nazi extermination camps, nobody in the modern day has really experienced what the Syrians have.
Said Naya.
Said Naya, okay. Nobody in the modern day has experienced what the Syrians have experienced. You know, we had the Houthi genocide 30 years ago, but
Yep.
that was people with machetes and rifles. In Syria, they had prisons set up where it was a bureaucratic, industrialized infliction of savagery, and it was different in Iraq because the ruling party wasn't just one family. It was similar to Syria, but from what I can gather, Syria was much worse. And
Well, Ba'athist be what Ba'athist be. Arab
yes,
Nazis.
yeah, no, they are.
And
And
that's what they were. And they had Nazis assisting in the design of their prisons. Sudnaya was designed by a chap who was a former inspector general at Auschwitz. And these people know about torment.
and you don't have, okay, the era is different now. Iran is vastly weakened. We overthrew Saddam in 2003, which is getting up to a quarter century ago, and Iran was. It could be argued that Iran became much more powerful and influential, messing with our plans in Iraq. But the Israelis aren't the Americans, and the Israelis have shown a stunning dedication to carrying out what they promised they would carry out. And they've now announced that one of the reasons they destroyed all the air defenses in Syria was because they're going to fly right over Syria into Iran and finish destroying the nuclear research facilities.
Yeah.
And so another thing that we talked about, I'm seeing more and more articles about it. Trump is the first, to quote Newt Gingrich, he's the first de facto president in history. Everybody's already treating him as if he's been sworn in.
Everybody's kissing his ring. But
Yeah.
by the way, look at this regarding Syria. and I'll finish with a commentary with this one. Let me see if the sound works.
This is one of the most diverse countries in the
working?
Middle East with multiple Christian and Muslim sects. And you can see it here in the old city, all the different
Now, this is an
quarters,
imbecile
Jewish,
from
Muslim,
Europe
Christian,
looking
they're
at
all
Syria.
here, and they want to believe they have a space now as Syria embarks on this new chapter. This is one of the most diverse countries in the Middle East with multiple Christian and Muslim sects. And you can see it here in the old city, all the different quarters, Jewish, Muslim,
I can't
Christian,
hear her. Is she
they're
talking
all
about
here,
the
and they want to
thriving Jewish
believe
community
they have a
yet?
space
Yeah, yeah.
now as Syria embarks
You know how
on
many
this
Jews there are
new
living
chapter.
in Syria
This is
today?
one of the most diverse countries in the
None.
Middle East with multiple
3.
Christian and Muslim
There were
sects.
4
And you can see
5
it
years
here
ago.
in the old city,
3
all
now.
the
What
different
the
quarters, Jewish,
feeding
Muslim,
herself.
Christian,
talking
they're
about?
all here, and they want to believe they have
you
a
could turn
space
her off.
now as Syria embarks on this.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, you can turn her off. She's the clip has
Yeah.
gone through like 3 times.
Okay. Uh,
No, but she's
what
from the BBC, so she's got a
what thriving Jewish community protected by Assad? You stupid cow.
Well, see, this is the thing. This is the BBC. The BBC protected the worst pedophile in human history, and knew about him, and just kind of discreetly averted its eyes. And then after he was dead, they said mea culpa, sort of, but not really. I mean, the BBC is the BBC's been rotten to the core for decades
For
now.
decades now. Antonio here, he's a good follower of SQV. Could the Green New Deal be the excuse to bankrupt homeowners and farm holders located adjacent to solar windmill forests on pennies on the dollar in favor of the government and or political bureaucrat friends, family? How about large agribusiness?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the Green New Deal, among many things, each one worse than the other, aims to bankrupt the family farm in favor of big agricultural concerns. And that is both in the US and in Europe. And it is nothing more than Stalin's collectivization of the land by other means. It is fascist being fascists. They hate the idea of small family enterprises producing throughout the land. They want everything controlled and under control. And it's a lot easier if you have 5 companies like Cargill and Monsanto, and you don't have to worry about supervising 100,000 small farms. They are going to destroy family farms if we allow them to go on with this green new bullshit. Fortunately, I think that that is coming to an end. Part of the speech at the beginning. People are waking up to the idea of the ginormous fraud that is the green policy shit.
Yeah, I mean, I remember years ago, people were remember John McCain. He was all standing up and thundering that he would never allow drilling in whatever the hell it was, some little place in Alaska.
Anwar.
Well, the area that he was talking about was about the size of a good sized municipal airport.
It's the size
hello?
compared to the size of the U.S. It's like
Okay.
a dollar bill in a football field.
Very good. And the technology has increased to the point where the drilling footprint is about this big, and
Yeah.
But people don't know that. When they think of oil companies, they think of the old the newsreel footage, or they think of what was the name of that movie with James Dean, Giant, with oil spewing, or a more recent movie with Daniel Day-Lewis where I drink your milkshake. Never saw it. I heard it was, I saw parts of it and it was just like, I don't want to watch this. But again, oil derricks and oil spewing out all over the ground.
Titusville, Pennsylvania, in the times of John D. Rockefeller. Except that 120 years have passed, you idiots.
Yeah. And okay, McCain, when McCain was talking about that, that's, 25 years ago or more, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So, there's
it was already bullshit then. It is beyond bullshit now.
Yeah.
It is going to happen. And I don't know, but there is a limit to how much people can pay with their electricity bills before they blow their top. And we're getting to that limit.
Yeah.
By the way, before I show you the next one, let me remind everybody we are going live on our Quad Verum TV channel in Odyssey in two timelines in Twitter, mine and his, uh, which, of course, as everybody knows, I've hijacked and fully control, just as I do control his mind. Uh, can you believe, Thomas, there are imbeciles still positing that possibility?
I can believe anything.
Yes, true. And also in YouTube for a while. Let's see how that works. And if you want to support us, it's very easy. Come to Odyssey, subscribe, and click on notifications. And if you feel generous, click on support or the dollar sign and throw a tip in the chat, or become a member of this channel and allow us to program to produce more programming for members. And that's it. I'm not going to beg you anymore today for the relief of everybody involved. Just to let you know that it has been scientifically proven by the same reports in the Lancet that are usually quoted by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that contributing anything over $5 a month to Quad Verum TV will prevent the flare up of hemorrhoids or lice taking residence in your hair. So there you go. If you want to live free of lice and be able to sit down without a freaking O-ring, contribute to Quad Verum and save your ass. There we go. By the way, this is scientifically proven. It's been in the Lancet, and prove me wrong. There you go. Have you noticed how everybody makes claims like this just as absurd and people buy them without checking?
Well, people are getting medical procedures based on TikTok videos. There are fake doctors on TikTok who will give you back surgery that'll leave you crippled for life. And somebody on TikTok said, "Oh, you should go to insulin dependent diabetics. If you eat this particular grub, then
Turmeric.
you'll be able to throw away your insulin." So
Yes.
they do that, and then they die. I mean,
Yes. Turmeric. If you eat Indian food, like curries with enough turmeric in them, you can be free of blood sugar. Yeah. Sure.
well, you'll be
Idiots.
free of blood sugar because you'll be in a casket, and
Yeah.
you'll have had your
There's
blood replaced by embalming fluid. So,
true. There is no excess sugar in embalming fluid.
I don't know. I don't know what percentage of people, I mean, we just went through this period where, Biden hired this monstrosity who had a mustache and a bald head and a red dress, and was apparently addicted to stealing suitcases at airports.
Oh, that bitch! You mean this one in our meme?
Yeah,
There,
on
there,
the left
there,
there.
there you have the little shit in the sign over the Palestinian demonstration. That's the one. Department of Energy, little freak.
Yeah, but there were very, 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 very few people, even if you counted up all the politicians and TikTok accounts and YouTube, all the social media accounts, there were very few people cheering that guy on because everyone was grossed out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing. Okay, the phrase that I first heard in the late 70s, it started with the Germans, of course, but they created a social a performance art movement called the gender fucked movement. And so that's where you would have these entities, like that. And it was meant to be shocking. It was meant to be controversial. It was meant to, it wasn't meant to be normalized. It wasn't meant to be presented as somebody who's just completely normal. I think that person's name is Sam something or other, and Sam was presented to us as being just
Sam Brinton,
just completely normal, like nobody that you should look glance at
the girl next door.
And Democrats pushed so hard on this stuff that they lost the country. They lost, and by all accounts, they haven't learned anything, because only a handful of them are capable of explaining why they lost. And they're going to do it again during the midterms in 26. It's going to be interesting. And if they do decide to run someone like AOC in 28, she's going to have her giant butt handed to her. It's amazing. But I hope it happens.
Which one of the butts? The one on top of her legs, or the one? Which one of her butts is going to be handed to her? The one on top of her legs, or the one between her ears?
Both. Both.
There's a big culo in here,
No, I mean, it's ridiculous. I've heard I saw a list of all the Democrats who are going to boycott Trump's inauguration. I haven't heard of a single one of them. They were all from Congress, and there's 435 members of Congress. So, I don't even know if there's a single person in this country who can name all 435. I'll bet there is, but just a few of them.
No, they're the whole thing. Let me show you this. We discussed this last night, and let me show you what I have here, because this is the clearest symptom that we're reaching the end of the road for this big insanity.
How the hell did Donald Trump
Can you hear it now?
figure out
Yes.
the mainstream media is the fringe and the fringe is now the mainstream? How the hell did Donald Trump figure out? I mean, Joe Rogan is obvious, right? Like, we knew the guy had a big audience. It's not like we were like stunned, but like, how the hell was he, the 78-year-old guy who doesn't even have a computer and still like writes handwritten notes? How did he become the guy who cracked the code on, to your point, running a cultural, I don't even want to say campaign, running
it was a movement. Look,
heading a cultural movement versus a campaign.
Every one of your people knows Elon. Listen, so everybody keeps. I mean, the problem is you have a framework in your mind that how can Donald Trump? Guys, can we cut it out? Donald Trump is not an idiot. Donald Trump. Let me just be very clear. Donald Trump is smarter than me, you, and all critics. You know why we know? Because he has the White House, the Senate, the House.
Totally agree.
Court, the popular vote. He has a massive media ecosystem bigger than the mainstream built around him and for him, and a religious fervor in a political movement around him. And his best buddy is the richest person in the history of the world, and the most relevant Kennedy is with him. This dude is a phenomenon. He is the most powerful human on earth and in our lifetime. And we're still saying, well, how was this guy? We look like idiots to ordinary people.
You're totally right.
Okay. Now, I think it's incredibly interesting that Van Jones, the card-carrying Communist Party member who had to resign from the Obama administration when his membership in the Communist Party became known, whose only raison d'etre in politics is that he managed to fuck the niece of Jimmy Carter, who's been on the forefront of the Marxist advance in media and academia, is now the voice of reason, saying, watch out, guys, I think we fucked up.
Well, okay, both of those men are idiots. I just
True.
I just
They're
proved it.
Democrats. Come on, ça va sans dire.
I just proved it. Go to Google and type in Trump with laptop. Trump has computers. Trump is online.
Yes,
He's on social media. He reads articles. Like why were they talking about Trump doesn't have a computer? Like what the fuck is that?
they're morons.
They're morons.
They're morons. Trump
I've been
was
saying
doubling
this,
in computers in the 80s.
I've been saying this since 2015. These people hate a Donald Trump who doesn't even exist.
No, but what really surprises me here is that idiot Van Jones, who's finally, guys, we fucked up. We're gonna go over the edge here, and I think they are going over the edge and taking Van Jones with them.
Well, of course, because he's not really going to change. He's not really going to do anything different. He's warning people, but what's going to happen? Nothing.
Well, I don't know. I think that for some of these people who are not all in,
Mm-hmm.
seeing this moron agitating his arms as the current eximander, maybe all they need to just justify their conscience and turn about. There is something positive in the fact that these idiots are figuring out they fucked up.
Well, they
Just
fucked
saying.
up, but my brother says that Trump has really boxed them in because, like, the only way that they're going to be able to win is if they start running like Republicans, and he's right.
Yes,
You know?
and some of them already are.
Oh, sure, of course.
Some of you should hear some Democrats talk about illegal immigration this week. They sound like Hillary Clinton in the 90s.
Yep.
Carville wash his hands of the mess, says Ebery. You cannot wash Carville's hands if you dip them in mineral alcohol. The guy is dirty to the core and a charlatan who's never been right. Never, ever. He's famously the one who took credit for Clinton's win in 92 because it is the economy, stupid. Clinton got 40% of the vote, baby. You didn't win. The Republicans decided to not unite and divide their vote in two. And even then, George Bush was within a half a point of beating Clinton. So he wasn't such a fucking genius. They just got lucky. Unless somebody can prove to me that Carville was behind Ross Perot's run, he had nothing to do with Clinton winning. He didn't understand that, and he doesn't understand anything today.
He admitted it. He admitted as much. Carville admitted as much. He had this famous meltdown video where he was just complaining because they'd thrown everything at Trump and nothing stuck.
And yep, that rant, I saw it. But he doesn't understand anything. He didn't understand anything. He is nothing but a party operative who will say whatever the party tells him to say. He has no brains and no understanding. The one who does have some understanding, and that's why you see so very little of him, is David Axelrod.
Yeah.
The guy who manufactured Obama together with Bill Ayers. Managed to put that clown over us. That they did.
Well, I mean, we have to be honest about Obama. The only reason he won 2 terms is because he's black. I mean, that's all there is to it. You people admitted as much. I had to vote for him because I wanted to be part of electing, the first black
Yeah,
president, and then the other part of it was I wanted to make sure the first black president wasn't a failure.
that
And
that was the time where I abandoned all hope that there was anything between the years of Colin Powell.
yeah, I mean, okay, another problem with everything was that George W. Bush refused to defend himself, and he let everybody and his grandmother define him. And the end result was what the end result was. It was Obama. It was and
The,
and
the end result was Nancy Pigliosi.
and Mitt Romney did the same thing. Romney let the
True.
Democrats and the press define him as a vulture capitalist, and he did absolutely nothing to explain to people what a venture capitalist is. And
Yes.
you know, um,
And by the way, venture and vulture are not the same thing. They like to confuse the thing. But even vulture capitalists are a much necessary part of a capitalist economy. People who come in and buy the assets of broken companies and either turn them around or redistribute them, they're necessary. They are like the leukocytes of the system.
yeah, I mean, the problem with Republicans, except for now, was that Republicans refused to defend themselves. There is some old saw about how Republicans are worried that you won't know who they really are, and Democrats are worried that you will. You know,
True.
and if you're worried that people aren't going to know who you really are, then you have to explain yourself. Currently, I'm watching a lot of South Korean TV series and movies.
Still,
Of course.
it
And
hasn't worn off yet.
no, and the issue in most of these movies is that there's a person who absolutely refuses to explain him or herself to the person they're involved with. And if you don't explain yourself as many times as it takes, then you're going to end up, and as it happens in all these movies, the person ends up being misunderstood, and they end up creating a much bigger problem for themselves. And you know, I thought it was elementary that okay. Remember Bob Barker, the guy who ran The Price is Right.
Oh yes,
He
of
was
course.
accused of he had two long-term booby girls who would show the objects and everything, and one of them sued him for sexual assault. And he immediately called a press conference and he said, "My lawyers told me not to do this, but I'm going to do it. I didn't do this. I did not do this. She's lying. We've known each other for 30 odd years, and this is a nightmare, but I didn't do it." He took questions from the reporters and she dropped her case. It was gone. So, you can't expect people to understand you if you don't explain yourself, and I'm all for
And sometimes too. By the way, speaking of this kind of thing, I think uh, the little shit press secretary of Bill Clinton is having a little bit of a problem on ABC tonight.
well, what now?
Stephanopoulos.
Yeah, what now?
Oh, he just lost. They just essentially had to settle a lawsuit.
Yeah, with Trump.
The little fuck came on screen and said that Trump had been found liable for rape in a court of law.
Yeah, which is a lie.
Bingo. To the point that Trump sued, and now ABC has to pay $15 million to the future Trump library and $1 million to Trump's lawyers to cover his costs.
And they have to make a public apology.
And Stephanopoulos has to go and make a public apology on screen. And the same way that one of the View bitches had to go out and make a public apology on screen. I would say that America should get used to the idea of leftards apologizing and paying.
Well, I think the record for The View was 4 such apologies in one show.
Yes.
So, you know,
And it's coming, and it's coming on steroids. And the reason that I say this is because it goes straight to what you were saying. The old Republicans didn't defend themselves.
no.
Break is over, baby.
No,
Now
and that was the main
Trump defends himself.
the main problem with them was that I mean, Harry Truman famously said, "I'm not going to get down in the gutter with that guy," but sometimes you have to, you know, to quote the German ex-officer in the Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, it's not a gentleman's war. You know, you have to use their techniques against them. You have to fight dirty, and at some point they change their ways, because the other side has got a lot. They're much more dirty than this side.
Oh God, exponentially.
Yeah.
Exponentially. But like I said, we are in the era of punchback because, like so many more tenets of the politically correct world, including don't go down to the gutter, don't fight the pigs in the mud because they enjoy it and you're going to end up dirty and all that bullshit. No, it's welcome to Italian law. An eye for an eye.
Well, yeah,
you come at me with this bullshit. I come at you with an army of fucking lawyers. Now I can't, you can't, Trump can. Thank you very much. End of game.
Yeah, that's the thing, that if you smear somebody with the assumption that they're not going to take you to court over it, then they'll keep doing it. But, you know, like you said, Trump, you know, he'll do this a couple more times and then they'll stop smearing him, you know.
All we need is 2 or 3 judgments or nice settlements, and they're gonna stop doing it. And you know what? CNN is gonna tell their anchors, "You say this shit, you're out of a job."
Yeah.
You defend yourself. Here, sign a waiver. If you open your mouth and you libel somebody, it's you against the world, baby, because we're not gonna defend you.
Well, this is the thing about Alex Jones. I still hear a lot of conservatives talking about how, you know, he was sued for words. No, he was sued for a 10-year period of slander and libel.
Yes.
And he was warned multiple times. And then to top it all off, he didn't show up to any of his court proceedings. So these are all.
He was contemptuous of the proceeding. He decided to start defending himself after he got a judgment up his ass, and he deserves everything that happens to him.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, libel and slander are illegal. You have to, you know, uphold the laws. I mean, our side is supposed to be the side that, you know, wants to uphold the law. Well, the law is that you can't accuse parents of not being real parents and of being part of some giant conspiracy. They're crisis actors and no little kids actually died. I mean, come on.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Because this is one of the reasons I have more than contempt for Alex Jones. I despise the little fuck with every fiber. Can you imagine being the mother, the father of a 6-year-old with a body destroyed by bullets? And this fuck is telling you you're a liar, it never happened.
No, I can't imagine it.
You're working for the government. This is a black flag operation. Go fuck yourself. The suffering he caused those people.
But see, the problem with our side is that we Before they caught the guy who killed the health insurance CEO, Tim Pool went on the air and proclaimed that the footage, or the still photos that the police released did not show the same man who pulled the trigger. And he showed side by side comparisons that clearly showed that it was the same man. He had hugely thick eyebrows and very distinctive eyes, but Tim said, this is obviously not the same man. Something's fishy is going on here, and it's a conspiracy. And when, of course, they caught him, he never said, holy shit, I was wrong. He just went on ahead to the next thing. And our side believes conspiracies more than the other side. And it's a detriment.
I said sometimes, because what is Trump derangement syndrome, but the strong belief in a string of conspiracies.
Well, but the conspiracies that our side believes are stupid, like the fact that we have psyops that are carried out to
everything is a psyop
to confiscate our guns, and it's like,
yes,
well, they're sure taking their fucking time, aren't they? This has been going on, for 30 years. So it's like
or more.
When is the gun confiscation coming?
You're gonna find the John Birchers with that very conspiracy theory in the 60s.
The Democrats don't need conspiracies to confiscate our guns. They hate AR-15s the way a lot of people hate their ex-spouses, and they'll do anything at any time. All they have to do is come into power to say, we're going to confiscate all your AR-15s. And they don't need a mass shooting. They don't need anything other than the power to do it. And
didn't Clinton come up with a ban on semi-automatic rifles in the 90s?
Yeah, and then after it sunset, that was all you heard about.
Yeah.
And okay, think about it. This is a really ineffective way of confiscating. Every time there's a mass shooting, the Democrats would come out and say, we need to do something about guns. And nothing would happen. Nothing would change.
Nothing will.
It's really ineffective. If the government were behind this, they need to come up with a better way, because this one ain't working.
Yeah. Speaking of conspiracy theories, if I hear anything else about drones this week, I think I'm gonna puke and have diarrhea.
I just want to see a videotape that shows the dozens of drones flying in formation. I haven't seen one yet.
The ones I saw on the internet, one was taken from somewhere along the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway looking north, and what they're showing is the landing pattern of planes coming into LaGuardia Airport, would usually line up all the way from West Point to LaGuardia at different altitudes, coming into the runway, so that you have, from a distance and with compression, this still, it looks like a variety of flying objects. Is actually 7 planes on approach. You can see that in Miami International Airport going over the Everglades. You can see that in Fort Lauderdale Airport coming in from Weston. You can see that in LaGuardia coming in over the Hudson River from Newburgh. None of the things that I saw online were anything other than planes on approach at Newark, planes on approach at LaGuardia, and a few light effects. There is a light effect that occurs when you have a point of light not in focus, and it appears like a moving little thingy. If you have a camera, even with a phone camera, you can try it tonight. We have a full moon, so go and shoot at the moon, but make sure it's out of focus. And you're going to have another drone video.
Well, I'm hearing that these are car-sized drones. Are they flying only at night, or are they flying in the daytime? If they're flying in the daytime, give me a clear video of them. If they're flying at night, how do you know they're car-sized?
All they can see is a little point. In some cases, there are a few videos where you can see the drone, but the drone that you can see in the videos where you can see a drone, number one, they're standard fucking drones. I can fly one tonight and film it and tell you there's another one. Number two, all of these drones that are recognizable as such have all of the regulatory lights and are flying at under 500 feet. That is, they're complying with every FAA regulation.
Well, also,
now, it would be interesting to have Chinese spy drones in compliance with FAA regulations, don't you think?
Well, okay, the Chinese came over with high altitude balloons. They're not going to be flying quadricopters at 500 feet.
From the mothership.
Well, yeah. I heard somebody say that the congressman wouldn't sacrifice his credibility by saying something like that. It's like,
what credibility? The guy's a moron.
Well, also somebody handed him a piece of paper and he went, "Oh my God!" Yeah. So, he's not thinking about his credibility because he's a congressman. So he automatically assumes that people will grant him whatever credibility,
right.
He's from the U.S. Congress.
There is nothing, and of course, it doesn't help that our government officials are among the most incompetent little fucks ever to occupy any position, starting with Mayorkas and Admiral Kirby and all of the fuckers who are talking about this. I remember Admiral Kirby in the last legs of the Obama administration, when he was the spokesman for the Pentagon, and I pity the poor son of a bitch, because I cannot believe he believed a word of what he said. Same thing now. There is only one thing that I believe they're sincere. We don't know what it is.
Well, okay, I don't understand.
And the reason they don't know is because, if you ask them about Bigfoot, they're going to tell you the same thing. We're analyzing the video, but we don't know what it is.
Well, the thing about this whole thing is that people believe the thing in its opposite. They believe that the government knows all about UFOs and has aliens on ice and is lying about everything. And then they also believe that aliens or foreign countries or whatever are flying craft over our country, and the government is they don't know all about it. They don't know what it is because whatever. You can't believe both things at the same time. The reason we didn't shoot down the Chinese drone initially, the Chinese balloon initially, was that they were worried about. I mean, I don't know if you ever saw like the pictures taken of that thing. The payload was gigantic. So if they shot it
was big.
If they shot it down in the wrong place and it fell on somebody's house, or if it fell on a hiker out in the middle of nowhere, there would be hell to pay. So they waited till it was out over the ocean. I guess one of them, there were two of them, and we shot down one of them. And
the other one was in South America.
Yeah, okay. So,
but yeah, that's exactly as you say. I remember when I was living in New York, and because of years of dove shit corroding the cables of the Brooklyn Bridge, one of them snapped and killed the Japanese tourist. Imagine that.
Yeah.
When something falls to the ground, there is a possibility that someone will get killed.
Yeah.
A house will be destroyed. You, people were talking about the payload on that balloon being about the size of a semi. Good. Shoot it down and have pieces of shrapnel rain over, I don't know, Nashville. Wouldn't that be nice?
Well, we didn't know what would happen to the payload if it suddenly started dropping and reached terminal velocity at 600 miles an hour. Would it
Yeah.
disintegrate? Would the parts get picked up by the Gulf Stream and fly this there?
Yeah.
Would a little tiny piece of shrapnel hit a 2-year-old in the eye?
Yeah, it's you know what's going to happen. Now, these drones, in order to shoot them down, first you have to be there and see them. So far, 90% of the videos are there are either optical illusions or landing aircraft.
Well,
So what is there to shoot?
two nights
American
ago,
Airlines landing in LaGuardia?
2 nights ago, the Russians launched the largest drone and missile attack on Ukraine. And Ukrainians shot down well over 90% of the missiles
Yeah.
and drones. But they were using helicopters. They were using shoulder-fired missiles. They were using ground-based anti-aircraft artillery. And they were using F-16s to fire air-to-air missiles. The videos of the helicopters using their onboard cannon that's mounted in the nose of the helicopter, it's a frigging bitch to shoot down an aerial drone. For one thing,
Yeah.
it's much smaller. If you shoot down a drone with an air-to-air missile, you're going to have the debris from the drone
And
gonna
from
have
the missile.
the balloon, and you're going to have the debris from the missile. So,
Yeah.
and okay, the balloon itself. You've seen hot air balloons. The Chinese balloons were much bigger than a hot air balloon. If that cloth fell on you, it could kill you easily. It could kill a bunch of people. What if it fell on? Okay, they said, oh, it was out in the middle of nowhere. Shoot it down. There's roads out there. There's roads out.
There's roads out there crossing through the middle of nowhere. But the other thing is that thing, as it falls down, it will continue to move. There's going to be a vertical and a horizontal and a land trajectory. And it could land 100 miles from where you actually hit it.
Yeah, because there's momentum. It was moving in the wind.
Yes.
And if you shoot it, it's since it does have built up momentum, like you said, it would continue. It would fall down, but it would also continue moving
it will
forward.
continue, and the broken balloon is like a sail.
Exactly.
So you know, people are frankly stupid. Why don't they shoot him down? First, show me a target. Nobody's been able to find the target. There are videos of these, like there are videos of UFOs, like there are videos of Nelly in Loch Ness, like there are videos of Bigfoot, and that doesn't mean any of those exist.
Yeah, I just want evidence, like pretty hard evidence. I know that okay, my brother took a photo. My brother is a landscape photographer. And he took a digital photo of a sunset out in one of the hills nearby. And, you know, with digital cameras, you end up with a gigantic resolution image. And he was just looking at it. And up in the sky, there was this, what appeared to be a silver sort of, it wasn't saucer shaped. It was more, put two teardrops butt to butt. That's what it looked like. And it's completely inexplicable. It looks for all the world like it's made out of metal. But I don't know what it is. He didn't know what it is. We can't say, you know, it's an alien thing. It's a government thing. One day we saw a black, what looked like a black donut just stationary up in the air. And my brother is an airline fanatic, and he estimated it to be at about 10,000 feet, which makes it huge. So we stood there and we watched this thing for a good 5 minutes. And I said, go get your camera. And when he went and he got in his camera, a cloud blew by. And, when we waited after the cloud took off, this thing was gone. And don't know what it was. If my best guess is it's some kind of vehicle being tested by the armed forces. But it wasn't anything to get hysterical over. And I certainly didn't feel fear. I didn't feel that it was dangerous. There's stuff flying around all the time that isn't causing us any danger at all. And believe me, we knew where the Chinese balloons were the second they entered our territory. So things are almost never, not always, things are almost never as bad as people think they are. The Russians are going to launch nuclear weapons. They're not. They probably don't even have it.
Not in this lifetime.
They probably don't even have nuclear weapons. The Chinese are going to invade Taiwan. Well, again, they're going to have to contend with the Taiwanese armed forces and the Japanese armed forces.
Come on, they need Moses.
And Moses.
They need Moses so Moses can part the seas and they can walk to Taiwan, because there is no fucking way the Chinese can get a 2 million infantry force to Taiwan.
Well,
and that is less than what they would need for a successful disembarkation.
They just completed a military exercise in which they would blockade Taiwan until Taiwan surrendered.
Oh yeah, good luck with that one.
Good luck with that one.
I know that Japan is going to love a blockade of Taiwan. Idiots.
Well, with a carrier strike group in the area, all we would have to do is just start sinking their little shippies, and the blockade would be broken. The Chinese would say it was all a misunderstanding.
Oopsie! No, we were just doing an exercise.
Well,
this is one of the drone videos that everybody's talking about.
Exactly the question people are asking. What is it? No. Yeah.
That's a weird looking drone.
Right now, things like this are happening.
Okay, there you go. You see the drone?
No, I don't see a drone. I see a light.
Like a little light, right? And the light is spinning. Oh my God! This is like Nessie. And this, of course, is being shown on ABC News, because this is like, oh my God, the unidentified flying object.
Municipalities are now asking people to reach out.
You gotta be freaking kidding me! This is what causes hysteria.
Who might be able
people are
what they're seeing
4 levels of stupid
so many people looking up and making those
below what I thought was maximum.
That needs to be solved. For now, we're live here in Mendham Borough. Tony Yates, Channel 7.
And now they have volunteer patrols.
That video was the textbook definition of an in the what the hell is the word? I just had it on the tip of my tongue. No. An inconclusive video.
Yeah,
I mean it didn't. I mean, it could be the land, one of the landing. Okay, when we live in the flight path, we live under. Let's see, 2 civilian flight paths, a military flight path, and another military flight path. And sometimes when the jets come in, you see what just looks like one light. It's actually 2 lights, but they're so far away, it looks like one light. They've merged. And it looks like it's just sitting up there in the sky.
Yeah, because they're far away and they're coming at you. And if you get a camera, you're going to get something like this. Boo-hoo. Boo-hoo. People are stupid.
I just want evidence. If there's a mothership offshore, I want evidence. If there's a dozen drones flying in formation, I want evidence. I just want evidence.
Yeah.
I mean,
and by the way, I don't just want to see drones flying in formation. because there are known videos of such things happening all the time. I want them with the ability to identify where the fuck are they, because a little formation of drones over Beijing is of no concern to me.
Well, okay, yeah. This is another thing that the urge. People talk about disinformation, but what really makes people post videos online is trying to get eyeballs on the screen, and so you'll see videos. A hell of a lot of the videos that were produced of alleged Israeli damage were actually from Syria, from Yemen, from multiple places.
By the way, here you have a swarm of
What?
drones.
They're what, bugs?
That's actually a Christmas tree, but who the fuck knows? It's a beautiful light effect, and it's beautiful in photography. You can do very, very pretty things if you know how to exploit bokeh. And that was a swarm of drones, not a Christmas tree, mind you. No, a swarm of drones. Somebody says here that in SQV they had memes of drones dropping McDonald's bags and Krispy Kremes to Chris Christie.
Yeah.
That's why Trump, you have a formation of drones bringing donuts to Christie.
Yeah, Trump posted one.
Ay. I don't know. It's every now and then some idiot comes up with UFOs and alien invasion. The only alien invasion we have in this country is Chinese spies.
Yeah, and they're all working for the Democrats.
Yes. Did you notice that Biden didn't limit himself to pardoning pedophiles and child porn peddlers and big city embezzlers? He also pardoned 2 Chinese spies.
Yeah, I mean, was I correct did I read that he's issued the most pardons of any president?
Yep, and he's not done. He's already issued 5 times more pardons than Trump.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. But the quality is not just which pardons. Obama pardoned 1,100 people in total, I believe, or thereabouts. This asshole just pardoned 1,500 in one swing of the pen. Obama and Clinton pardoned terrorists. Literally.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Literally, they pardoned or commuted sentences for the bitch who bombed the Senate, because we know January 6th was the worst attack on the Capitol. Bombing the Capitol doesn't even enter into the equation. Obama pardoned, let me see, Obama? Yeah, Obama pardoned the son of a bitch who bombed Francis Tavern for the Puerto Rican independence movement. They pardoned the asshole who bombed the House of Representatives. Biden pardoned a woman who embezzled $53 million from her city as town controller who embezzled $53 million.
Wow.
I wonder how much of the booty she had to give to the Biden people to get a pardon.
10%.
Yeah, well, that's
10% for the big guy.
That's it from the Hunter computer, right? He pardoned people who were sentenced for possession or distribution of child porn. I mean, I'm disgusted by the pardoning of terrorists, but I understand Obama taking care of his own.
Sure.
But these Chinese spies, pedophiles, and sorry, he is taking care of his own after all.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Biden, like, just the whole clan, they're like it's really amazing. They're completely, they're filthy from the ground up, like on all levels, like personal and professional and sexual and philosophical, just everything about them. And then they do all this stuff, and then they get cheered on by the press, who says it's a father's love. And you have to go back and you have to look at that nightmarish, ghastly black and white photo. There's a series of photos, actually, of Biden. He's hugging Hunter, and they're standing body to body with their arms around each other. And Biden has his head buried in the side of Hunter's face, like he's whispering sweet nothings in his ears. And Hunter's looking at the camera with the most desolate, lost, horrifying expression I've ever seen on another human being. And it's like, I know what happened to that guy. And it's presented to us as if it's beautiful. And it's not only not beautiful, it's ghastly. I don't know. That's
the whole thing. I mean,
that's the worst part. That's the worst part of all this stuff, is that the press, I don't like to use the term gaslighting because it's overused, but the press is gaslighting us into trying to gaslight us into accepting that absolutely horrible horrible things are
exploitation
wonderful and beautiful.
Take a look at the daughter's diary, and her actions, eventually shoplifting, drug use. Those are classical of victims of abuse. Classic. So Hunter is an abused child. His sister is an abused child. Their cousin is an abused child. This is a family of not only thieves, but degenerates. Biden is a degenerate and a child abuser.
The daughter was asking herself in her diary if it was normal to be showering with Joe when she was 16 years old. And it's like, the fact that she had to question that to herself shows that, she had this sense of loyalty that I love my dad, but, and then she was also, in her own words, she was a sex addict, where she was calling her male acquaintances and telling them to come over immediately to perform on her. And she wrote, it's like in Heat. And again, this is classic for people who've been abused. And and now she's proudly photographed with her dad. She's put all of that behind her, and I don't know. It's a nightmare. It's like Joe.
No,
Joe has many sins and many crimes to answer for.
Oh God. The good news is that many of these crimes are state crimes, and pardons will not cover them.
No. I mean, I don't know. I still marvel at this. Okay, Trump was being interviewed by this nightmare woman from, I think, 60 Minutes, some wide-eyed cafe au lait colored woman.
Hello.
And she was, hello, hi.
There you are.
Hello. No, Trump was being interviewed by someone, and she asked him if he thought the election of 2020 was stolen, and he said he did. And she did the usual disinformation about, it was what?
But you can't say that.
It was just, there were enough people in 2020 who wanted Trump gone that they're able to steal the election. This time around, there weren't, but they had to go through 4 years of Biden in order to see that yes, Trump was good. It's amazing to me. I didn't have to go through. I when I see a wall socket, I don't have to actually stick a butter knife into it to understand that if I stick a butter knife into it, it's going to shock me and it's going to hurt. You know.
Shit, so many times I did. By the way, before we move on, David saying Jill had to be complicit. Jill was complicit, and the manner in which Hunter refers to Jill in letters to her are more than explicit in his deep-seated hatred for the bitch who was complicit in his abuse.
No, I mean Jill. When Biden was vice president, the whole shtick was that Jill stayed out of politics. But when she was first lady, the most stunning thing she ever said is she gave an interview where she said, when you're driving in a limousine and the police are blocking off streets and forcing everybody to stop to let you go by, that's power. And I thought, what made you say that out loud? What made you say that out loud, Jill?
Maybe because she's a power freak.
Yeah. And admitting it, like she's just a dumbass. That all these people, as corrupt and evil as they are, they're also dumbasses.
Profoundly stupid. Profoundly stupid.
I was gratified to hear Van Jones admit that Trump is smarter than him and that other idiot.
Well, it's about time the son of a bitch woke up. It's about time. Because Trump has been wiping his ass with the likes of Van Jones for 8 years now. Movie Time Blue says a pandemic was brought about to force TJT out in 2020. I beg to disagree. They exploited the situation to the hilt, but they didn't provoke it in order to. It just happened. Now, once it happened, like the bird flu, remember the bird flu hysteria?
Oh, God, yeah.
We're going to die. We're going to die.
Also, there was a SARS. There was another. I mean, COVID is actually the second SARS, but there was another SARS before COVID.
Yes. Some people say it was COVID in 2016.
Well, if you think about it, at the start of the whole COVID nightmare, everything they said about COVID turned out to be true. You only have to worry if you suffer from comorbidities.
Yes, if you're over 65, diabetic, with chronic lung disease, then you have a lot to worry about.
Suppressed immune system.
Yes. But you know what? If you get the regular flu under those circumstances, you have a lot to worry about you. Every fucking year, 80,000 people die in this country of the fucking flu.
Right. And I also saw, I knew that this thing wasn't going to protect me from COVID. I never got COVID and I never got vaccinated. So there's that. But I knew this thing wasn't going to protect me from COVID because they said at the beginning, and also I knew the only thing this thing could do if it's over your mouth or nose would be to prevent mucus globules from flying into people's faces, but there would still be particles, a mist produced that would get through the
not only that. The phrase I used in a Beard Blather in April of 2020 is that to try to stop the flu virus or the COVID virus with such a mask is like trying to keep mosquitoes out with chicken wire. They're just coming in through the holes, you imbeciles.
Yeah. So
And the second one is, as it regards with the air when you sneeze, is that obviously these people never heard of the Venturi effect. When you sneeze, your sneeze projects for up to 100 yards, you know. The virus, the bacteria in your spittle will travel over the air courtesy of that jet propulsion when you sneeze. But if you sneeze through a filter, it's going to project farther. It's like holding a hose when you are watering the lawn. What happens to the water? It projects farther. You restrict flow, and you know the physics of fluids being what it is, fluids go faster to catch up on the other side. Is the same principle of wing shape that gives a plane support in the air, is the same principle that projects water farther when you restrict the flow at the hose. When you restrict the flow through one of these masks in front of your face, it actually travels further. So you're liable to infect people farther out than if you're not wearing the fucking mask.
well, I just listened to everything they said at the beginning. I watched when the two emergency hospital ships that were parked on
Yes.
both coasts were never used. The hospitals that were frantically built were never used.
The Javid Center, 4,000 beds, never used.
The giant freezer trucks and converted warehouses turned into freezers for all the corpses were never used. So I knew that this thing was being wildly overstated, and so I didn't worry. And here in California, there's still people who wear masks for real, and they still social distance, and
Yeah.
they wear masks when they're alone in their car.
You have to tell those people that 6 feet is not enough. They have to keep at least 100 feet. So they stay 100 feet from you and me.
Well, also in California, they introduced what it was like a face mask, like a plastic face mask that like surgeons wear. Californians started wearing those, and some of them had their brains broken. Like the actor Ben Affleck, his daughter is insane. She wants lockdowns and masks and everything. Well, just like the fake reporter Taylor Lorenz, she claims that we need to be masked at all times, and
yeah, she would do us all a favor if she did.
Well,
but look at this. To this point that you're making, Poser Index, an otherwise intelligent chap in our chat, I worry that continuing gain of function experiments are going to create a worse virus than COVID. Oh, please give it a break, Poser. Number one, don't worry. Number two, you obviously, like most Americans, don't understand what gain of function is. And in order to create a dangerous virus, there are many ways. Gain of function is an important type of research that would allow you to create countermeasures as well. You don't want that to happen?
Well, that's the whole thing about the alleged biowarfare labs in Ukraine. They weren't biowarfare labs.
No.
They were labs to create countermeasures to bio and chemical warfare. And so in order to do that, you have to have the pathogens on hand.
Right.
There
are many vaccines that have been created and extremely successful over the past 100 years with weakened viruses,
mm-hmm.
or weakened bacteria or dead bacteria. How do you think you get to that? How do you think you get to the amount of these little fuckers dead or somewhat modified that you can inject in sufficient people to stop an epidemic? In these labs.
Mm-hmm.
course you need to do that research. And it's being conducted all around the world, all the time, for the past 60 years at least. And many of the greatest advances in treating disease have come from them. But all of a sudden, people discovered gain of function. Oh my God, it sounds complicated, doesn't it? It's not.
No, it's an old technique. The thing about COVID, okay, it originated in a country that's never going to tell the truth if that truth somehow reflects badly on that country. So we're at a disadvantage there. Another disadvantage is the country is massively corrupt, and so if you want to build a perfectly safe germ-proof laboratory, you can't do it because all the parts you need are they're not going to exist. You're going to pay for a germ.
Somebody's going to skim off the top.
What they're going to do is they're going to pocket your money and give you a piece of crap in exchange. And then the third thing is that particular lab where they think COVID originated was sloppy. It was dirty. They were careless. So, nothing was created deliberately and released.
No.
That doesn't actually happen except in like James Bond movies.
Yep. And James Bond movies, by the way, were meant to be almost comedic.
Yeah, they're entertainment.
They're entertainment. I mean, come on. When the bad girl is named Pussy Galore, you know somebody's winking at you.
Oh, sure.
Now, in Wuhan, apparently, a technician didn't follow protocol and went to the market and unknowingly released the thing. I remember a friend of mine who worked for the National Health Service, whose job it was to inspect cruise ships for what was the name of that thing? Another virus, norovirus. Every now and then there were towards the late 90s there were a few a spat of cases of norovirus in ships that made everybody on board sick, and they would come in puking and shitting their heart out, and it could be very dangerous. People can dehydrate and die, and they would send personnel from the National Health Service on board to supervise a thorough cleanup of the ship, and then make sure that there were no remnants of the virus, and only then could the ship sail again. My friend who used to do this work told me that when they left the ship after working in clearing the norovirus, they would go into a tent, get naked. The clothes they were wearing was to be burnt, incinerated. And then they would be disinfected like the fucking ship before they went into another tent to get dressed. And he told me, I don't want to go home wearing a shirt that I was wearing in the ship, because my kids are going to hug me when I get home and they're going to get it. Mm-hmm. It's that easy to transmit. That wouldn't mean that he, if somebody forgets themselves and doesn't do a thorough cleaning, or mistakenly puts on the shirt he was wearing before the shower, they're going to spread it. That doesn't mean they're doing it intentionally. That means they're schmucks.
No, I mean, okay, there's only been 2 countries in the world attacked with biowarfare weapons: China during World War II, and the U.S. during prior to when we entered World War I. The Germans attacked us with anthrax and glanders and a few other bioweapons. And one of the reasons that bioweapons aren't used is because of the clear danger that they're going to infect the guys who
Yeah.
spread them. So you hear all, I mean, you hear all these, okay, I remember after the Soviet Union fell, there was a guy who made a name for himself who claimed to have worked in the Soviet bioweapons labs. And he said that the Russians had created a bioweapon that was Ebola crossed with the common cold or something like that. So it was highly transmittable, and it would give you Ebola. And you know, the hushed American interviewer was like, yeah. And this was 30 years ago or whenever. 92 was
we're all dead.
91 or 92? 91 when the Soviet Union fell, 92.
I put it at 89, but yeah, you can say 91.
Yeah. So,
by
you know,
by 91, there was no doubt.
Yeah, so 34 years ago, and nobody in the world has been infected by, well, look at Ebola. Every time there's an Ebola outbreak, it's like, you know, oh my God, it's going to come here. And it's like, it never does. I mean,
no, a few cases did of people who were working, you know, one was a nurse who was working in the Ebola outbreak in Africa and came back to New Jersey and turned out to have Ebola and actually got one in the hospital. There was another one in LA. But it never triggered an outbreak here.
no.
One case died, the other three were cured, and that was it. But again, you know, how many times I just mentioned the bird flu. How about the swine flu
Yeah.
in 16? By the way, I had not the bird flu, but I did have the swine flu and COVID, and I'd be very hard put to tell you the difference between the two of them. It was the same shit. It was the same shit in virulence. It was the same shit in provoking opportunistic infections like strep and pneumonia. It was the same shit. 18,000 children died in the US with the outbreak of the swine flu under Obama. Did you hear anybody complain?
No, of course not. That would destroy the narrative of Obama, the light worker who had a flawless presidency.
Yeah, but even at the time, COVID, in that sense, was far more benign towards children. I don't think there are deaths of children due to COVID, but 18,000 died due to the swine flu.
Yeah, I rarely get the flu. The last time I had the flu was about 20 years ago when I lived with my brother, and we were on different cycles, so we kept reinfecting each other, and it was a good 6 weeks before we could, like, you know, get rid of it. And other than that, I mean, you know, I have like a, what the hell is it? My main doctor, basic care, whatever they're called.
Primary care physician.
Primary care, that's it. And they want me to get flu injections, and I had shingles, so they wanted me to get a shingles vaccine. And it's like, no, I'm going to grit my teeth and I'm going to go through all of this, you know, because
oh, fuck that. I got the shingles vaccine. I don't want to go through shingles.
The only downside was chronic fatigue syndrome. And, you know, that still comes and goes, but, you know, just gives me an excuse to have an afternoon nap if I want to. But, you know, it wasn't, I thought it was ant bites, you know, because I was working out in the yard. So, wasn't
Well,
wasn't
you know, if you watch internet all day, you're going to come across something that says that to end chronic fatigue, you need to stick a finger up your ass, drink a glass of warm water, and prepare yourself a drink in the morning with some commonly available spices, and that's going to cure you of that and eliminate the possibility of ever having Alzheimer's.
well. The thing that gets me is the sheer conformity of all these ads. Use this one weird trick. They always say weird. Eat
Yeah.
this weird vegetable. My wife got me this weird knife. And it's like, where the hell did you come up with this? Did you have focus groups that told you that if you use the word weird?
No, it's an English Chinese dictionary they all use. So, eh, let, let me check the chat. The moral of the story, says Poser, is don't eat bats. Yes, don't eat bats and never, but never, ever, ever fuck a chicken. And you're not going to get some weird disease. And don't eat monkey brains. You see, if you eat monkey brains, you get Ebola. If you fuck a chicken, you get the avian flu. And if you eat a bat or a pangolin, uh, you get some other stupid disease like COVID. Shingles are hell, says Kel. I know. Isn't shingles close to chickenpox? No, it is the same virus that is dormant in all the bodies of those who were not vaccinated and contracted the disease, like me or like Thomas, because uh, the vaccine didn't come until 1964, 1965. I had already had chickenpox by that time.
I had chickenpox, and the doctor told me that people who had chickenpox are more likely to get shingles.
Oh, they're the only ones who can get shingles.
Yeah. And I mean, the only reason I went, I mean, I'm a great self diagnoser with a lot of online research. So when I went to the doctor, I knew I already had shingles, and I was just concerned about, getting it on record and seeing. And the shingles vaccine that they offered me, you have to take it in two parts, and it's only 10 years old. So I'd already had it. The chronic fatigue wasn't debilitating. You're left with, I have a line of scars going from my breastbone around to my spine on the left side, but it wasn't. I mean, my grandmother had it, and I guess it was really, really bad for her. But
It's not only bad for some people, but the same way that you can have these flare ups on your skin, they may happen in internal organs. And just as the burning sensation, it's like poison ivy to the 10th power, and it's quite uncomfortable. When that happens in your heart or in your kidneys, you're a goner.
yeah, and you know, I had shooting pain that kind of made me go but it was very, very intermittent, and you know I just figured I'm 62. Um, I could go at any time. I mean, all of us can go at any time. We could be hit by buses. We could be hit by Chinese balloons that were shot down by the
Something,
Biden.
something I discovered many, many, many years ago
Yeah,
is you're on this planet on loan.
yeah. And you know, um, I don't worry. I had pneumonia when I was in high school, and it was like I had some bizarre um, medieval version of it. It was so horrible, but I didn't end up with any scars on my lungs. I've had other issues. I have the Meniere's disease, but it's just part of life.
Shit.
I'm dealing
God, we're
with
magnets for shit, aren't we?
what?
We are magnets for shit. I had pneumonia 4 times, many years, everything.
Yeah, my father had pneumonia as a child in the 1930s when there was,
No
almost nothing.
antibiotics.
And that was the only time his mother really took care of him. So he developed this. Whenever he got sick, he told everyone he had pneumonia. And at one point, he went to the hospital, and he ended up he invented a 24-hour pneumonia for himself. And he called his brother and told him that he'd gotten over his pneumonia. And it was like, you were just in the hospital yesterday. You went in the hospital. You spent the night in the hospital.
Yeah,
You went
but
in.
the nurse was great.
That was really interesting because I asked the nurse, I said, does he have a pneumonia or not? She said, I can't tell you due to patient confidentiality laws. And I just kind of went, life in California. And I said, but okay, I'm his caretaker. So she thought, and she said, he doesn't have anything that he didn't have before he came in. It was like, okay, he didn't have a pneumonia. But yeah, he was telling everybody he had pneumonia, and it was a 24-hour pneumonia. So that was pretty good because my own took several weeks to get over, and I was like weak as a kitten for a long time after that. But
That
that's
time it
life.
took me 6 months to clear my lungs.
Yeah.
When that shit goes to the bottom of your lungs, holy crap! Before the last of the shit is spat out, it's about 6 months of exercising in the yard. Ugh.
I had a
And,
I,
and and a friend of mine. Speaking of, you're here today, had pneumonia, a particularly virulent kind. They had him in the hospital for a month. Ended up in an oxygen tent. By the time he was released, he was cured of pneumonia, but 70% of his lungs were scar tissue. So he had to live tied up to an oxygen apparatus, and eventually they did a lung transplant. A, a lung transplant as a consequence of a virulent case of pneumonia. So I take it very seriously. I take it very seriously. And like a doctor friend of mine told me once, uh, if you know the symptoms, if you think you have a lung infection, start popping antibiotics and then come and see me. I don't give a shit what the recommendation is about this, because the diaphragm is porous, and whatever infection you have in the lungs can pass to the kidneys, and then by the time you come and see me 2 days later, you're peeing blood and we have a bigger fucking problem. So
how do you get antibiotics without a doctor's prescription?
well, he gave me all the prescriptions I needed, and I've always had at home. I don't use them except when the symptoms of infection are clear. And it's not very difficult in my case to know when it is. You start having bronchitis, cough, production of phlegm, green fucking phlegm at that. That's it. Yellow tongue, green phlegm. Give me the antibiotic. And if I'm mistaken for some reason, so I took it for 2 days, and then the doctor tells me I need to do something else. That's fine. So far, not once. So far, every time I went to the doctor like this, they gave me the same antibiotic to continue with. So, and I replenished the one I was using.
I guess they have a shelf life, don't they?
They do. They do a couple of years. And if it expired, then I'll go and get another one and replace it. Every time I go to Europe, I come back with a couple of boxes.
You're definitely not going to Norway.
Who the fuck wants to go to Norway?
No one in their right mind. It's almost impossible to get prescribed antibiotics in Norway. So it's because the government knows better. The government knows better.
Yeah, and now I'm getting advice. You need the specific antibiotic for the specific bacteria. Yeah, that's what the doctor does. You know what I do? Zipro or emicin. Wide spectrum. And then I go to the doctor. It's not like I'm going to take antibiotics for 7 days and see if I cured myself. But, start right off the bat. In Spain, in theory, they don't sell antibiotics without a prescription. In practice, I've yet to find a pharmacist who won't just give it to you.
See, that's another reason I don't want to go to Spain, because
why not?
Well, because that attitude will cross over into like restaurants and all sorts of other places that
Good. I love freedom, man. You see, Spain is an oppressive country with a free people. And those free people are in a constant state of rebellion against laws and regulations. And they make life worth living.
Well, they vote for the people who like impose all the regulations, and then they
I know. Amazing, isn't it? Of course, 60% of Spaniards don't vote. They just don't give a shit. They could care less. That's a different type of problem. But essentially, they don't give a flying fuck. I got my wine, I got my ham, I got my thing. I don't give a shit about what these people do. They have all of these laws for employment, so I don't have any regular employee. Half the economy in Spain is black market.
Well, this is what socialists don't tell you is in every socialist country there's a gigantic black market.
Yeah.
When we lived in Norway, like we got everything on the black market. When we lived in Finland, we got all our black market goods from the guys who were enforcing the laws. They would confiscate stuff, and then they would sell it themselves. So it's ridiculous. Anyone who thinks socialism is the answer has never lived for a long time in a socialist country.
Not even a week.
Not even a week. No, anyone who thinks socialism is the answer should be forced to live for at least 2 years in an extremely socialist country and be subject to all the laws and all the taxation, and that'll cure them.
Unless they are Hollywood types promoting socialism, in which case I suggest that they don't do that, but the next time they get sick, they be treated in a Cuban hospital.
Well, they're done. I mean, they've all understood. The Biden administration was trying to recruit Hollywood stars to create resistance 2.0 against Trump, and they couldn't get a single one. It's like this last election was the final straw. So,
which brings us to the subject today. We have, I referred on the speech at the opening to a confluence of two interesting rivers, the Preference Cascade and the Failure Cascade. The Biden administration is a failure cascade. They started fucking up, and it only increased in frequency and consequences. From the withdrawal of Afghanistan to the doubling of our prices on just about everything, to people having to choose whether they have car insurance, pay their electricity, or eat. Now they're giving us these pardons to pederasts and spies. I don't think most people in America even Democrats, expect anything but shit from Biden.
No, they don't.
And on the other hand, there is a preference cascade where people started waking up to the fallacies we were being fed every day. And one immediate result of that waking up is how traditional media has been losing both audience and revenues. Two-fisted, they're all broke. Remember when CNN could command an audience of 30, 40 million people? Say
Yeah,
during the
during the
Iraq
Gulf
War?
War, maybe.
Hmm?
During the Gulf War, maybe.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Uh, what audience does Jake Tapper have?
You know, but my mind is boggled because okay, they were paying Rachel Maddow $30 million a year. With MSNBC, she accepted a $5 million pay cut. Where the hell are they getting this money? They're not getting it from advertisers. Where are they getting
Well,
all
they're
this?
broke. They're fucking broke. They're going to be sold for pennies on what they think they're worth. And Rachel Madcow, who should have been on my meme today because that's another fucking anomaly, it's going to be out of a job within months. Nobody wants that fuck.
No.
CNN, that is already gone bankrupt twice, and it's already been put on the auction block. The most beautiful what was when AT&T got rid of them. They're ready to be sold again.
Yep.
If there's anybody stupid, well, I think we were discussing this tonight, last night, Thomas. If somebody were to buy one of these empty shells and provide news programming with limited and carefully labeled commentary and separate from the news. So you have the news at this time, that time, that time, and you have a couple of shows with commentary, and they're labeled as such and don't pretend to be news. And you shoot in the back room anyone who slips opinion in a news piece. I think they could get audience back.
They do too. They're all singing their own, death knell right now, but all they need to do is abandon their stupid, retarded biases. And this is why the ones who are there, they're not going to do that. CNN had a new CEO, and he promised no bias, and it lasted for like a week and a half, and then they went back to their old ways. And you're not going to get sanity from MSNBC.
No. MSLSD? Jesus, no, not
that crowd. I mean, they had Trump's lawyer on, that weirdo Cohen, and
Michael Cohen.
Yeah, they had Cohen on, and he was saying, I don't know, because Cohen is like the perfect figure of fun. He's got this hilarious cartoon accent, and he was saying that Trump is worse than Hitler, and it's like he's got his own show. It's he films it in his bathroom or whatever. But okay, he's a live streamer, and there's a certain type of live streaming where if people pay money, somehow they can do things. And so he was doing this live stream, and somebody superimposed a roast chicken over his head, and he has the power to like remove it, but he said, ha ha, very funny. So then every single person who was paying like 50 cents or $1 or whatever were superimposing this roast chicken over his head. And he was like, oh, come on, guys, knock it off. And I just thought, this guy he's from Central Casting. I mean, he's his accent, what he's saying, his total lack of ability to handle being mocked. Everything about it was hilarious. If somebody were superimposing a roast chicken over my head, I'd leave it there. I'd laugh, you know. I'd say, do more. What else can you do? How about a tractor? You know, like whatever. I mean, but he was really offended. He was really, and so he had to spend the majority of his show like telling people not to put a roast chicken over his head. It was like, oh my God, you are such a clown and you don't even know it. I mean, it was shocking. And when I saw him on MSNBC, he wasn't any better. I mean, Trump is worse than Hitler. What does that even mean? Like, in what way? Give me specific ways in which Trump is worse than Hitler. I mean,
he has only half a testicle.
I have no idea. The fact that somebody would say that with a straight face is pretty mind-boggling to me.
Well, it's not knowing what to say, frankly. It's definitely not knowing what to say. And talking about that, why can't I place a canned ham over Saul of Thomas's face? For the right amount of money, I'll figure out a way so you can do it. Actually, for $100, you can put a naked Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez on my face, and I won't give a shit. There you go. For 50 cents, fuck no. Trump can sue MSNBC for money. Well, for what else? But maybe he can sue Rachel Maddow. Why? Why would anybody do it? By the way, you would lose. Because Rachel Maddow is already established in a couple of lawsuits brought against her that she's no journalist, makes no claims to being a journalist. She is a satirical commentator who makes shit up as she goes.
Yeah. I mean, that's reality. That was her defense in court, and it won her both cases.
Yes. So, fuck it. You can't sue the bitch because, she's making use of the First Amendment as a satirical commentator. If you like it, fine. If you don't like it, don't watch it. And people who take her seriously are the morons who need a straight fucking jacket and a season at the loony bin. And I want to say something else because I made the mistake of checking our Twitter feed, and some people say we don't know anything about Alex Jones. Listen, if you still like Alex Jones, if you haven't read the trial, if you don't know about Alex Jones' exploitation of the families of Sandy
Hook. Sandy Hook.
Yeah. Of the families of Sandy Hook, if you don't know how he tortured those poor people for years, then I'm sorry, but go fuck yourself. Alex Jones is shit.
Alex Jones, okay, he never appealed to me. There's this fad now among some self-described conservatives to say he was right about everything. No, he wasn't. Alex Jones he's an entertainer, but what he did was he discovered that claiming that Sandy Hook was a government operation and that all the grieving parents were crisis actors, he discovered that made him more money than anything he'd ever done in his career. So I watched the penalty phases of the trials. He admitted on the air that what he was saying was false, but he did it anyway. during the penalty phase, he said on the stand that he knew that what he was saying was false. And then that night on the air, he retracted it. So Alex Jones gets no sympathy from me because he brought all that calamity down on his own head.
And he's still doing it.
Oh, well, it's what the Onion wanted to buy his empire, and that was just blocked by a judge. But I mean, I don't care about Alex Jones. I only care about what he did to the Sandy Hook families, because what you need to understand is those children were all shot with an AR-15 style rifle, and their little heads were exploded. The first responders who went in there, I mean, these people had to quit on medical.
They're going to be on therapy for the rest of their lives. All of them ended up with a retirement due to PTSD.
The kid who did the killing was a mental basket case. So what happens in these cases, for whatever reason, is that his idiot mother decided, hey, he needs a gun, so we'll go shooting together. And apparently he got it in his crazy mind that his mother loved those kids more than she loved him, so he killed her.
Yeah, and then the kids.
And then he killed himself.
But it's always, you and I have discussed this for years now, and it always comes down to mental health.
Well, that's the thing.
Look at the brother of Mario, Luigi, the little fuck that killed the CEO of United Healthcare. He's another fucking lefty lunatic. Another schizophrenic, paranoid fuck.
The brother or the shooter?
No, the brother in Mario is because his name is Luigi.
Are you talking about the brother is another leftist schizophrenic?
No, the brother is another cartoon character.
Okay.
Luigi and Mario, Nintendo. Maybe it didn't come up as I thought, but anyway. So Luigi Darling is a schizophrenic, paranoid little fuck with a God complex and a nihilist leftard. And for whatever real or perceived grievances, he went out and killed the capitalist pig that is exploiting us.
And it was celebrated by leftists.
And it is celebrated by leftists because all of them are potential fucking Luigis. Because all of them think that if you kill the CEO of a big corporation, you're doing the country a favor. Regardless of circumstances, reasoning, or whatever. All you need is somebody crazy enough to pick up the challenge. And frankly, I'm sick and tired of the people who distract from the mental health issues. The shithead who killed the kids in Sandy Hook should have been in a fucking psychiatric hospital.
Well, this is the thing. Mass shooters are all identical. They all suffer from exactly the same mental issues. They may as well be factory made. And in regards to the cost of healthcare, all you leftists who are complaining about the cost of healthcare, get government regulations out of insurance, and you'll see the price fall like a rock thrown off
like a rocket. I mean, nothing made the cost of health insurance go as high as fucking Obamacare.
Yeah.
I saw my own policy go from 340 per month to 3,400 per month.
Yeah, mine doubled, and they also put me on. I was on a gold plan, and they put me on some bronze plan. I don't have any dental health care. I pay in cash, and luckily, my eye doctor can make the argument legally that he's treating me for medical conditions covered by my main insurance.
Otherwise,
but
they're screwed.
yeah, and this is all a result of government. This is all a result of big government, which leftists love. So make up your minds, you know.
So it's not United Healthcare. It's not. By the way, do some of these companies benefit from this? Yes, greatly. You know who benefits ultimately?
Tell us.
You, me, everybody with a pension plan or an IRA or a 401k.
Well, sure. I mean,
because 80% of the shares of these companies is owned by us. And all of those dividends go into our retirement funds.
Yeah.
I have absolutely no fucking problem with a corporation making money if they can. I have a problem with the government sticking its ugly nose and taking a dump on every business so that the cost of operations go through the roof, and that is transferred to the consumer.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, insurance companies don't refuse coverage because they're evil. Insurance companies are in the business of like making money, and it's harder to make money when you are massively overregulated by the government.
Yes.
And and
they already have to take on massive risk and insurable risk at that. Why do you think the policies are so expensive? Because it used to be, I mean, imagine how much your car insurance policy would be if you could get comprehensive collision coverage after you crash the car.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What would your policy be? The average auto insurance in this country would be $15,000 a year.
No, it's people don't know how anything works. And the thing that works the best is free market capitalism with a minimum of regulation. Like, for example, I don't accept child labor, for example. I don't think children should be working in sweatshops. But
or adults, for that matter.
Or adults, yeah. I don't think it's right or just or I don't use the term fair because life isn't fair, but I don't think it's just for Tyson Chicken to force its illegal workers to wear adult diapers because they're not allowed to take bathroom breaks as they pluck the chickens. So there do have to be regulations, but government by its very nature is in the business of overregulating so that it'll force the companies to basically pay their campaign, make donations to their campaign. So
keep the system oiled.
Exactly. So the chief villain in all of this is government. And I don't believe in pure anarchy. I don't believe in sovereign citizenhood. But I do think that there should be an absolute minimum of government regulation.
Because you're a Madisonian like I am.
Yeah.
I mean, why look for modern terms?
What?
Government should be the minimal expression necessary for a functioning society without intruding into citizens' liberties.
Yeah, here in California, the county, maybe it was the state, I don't even know. They passed a law saying that these restaurants have to be graded according to their cleanliness and healthiness, their cleanliness. So You know,
Is the state health department.
right. So you get an A, you put in the window, you get a B, you get a C. Well, you can buy these A's from the people who do the inspections. You just slip them
Yes.
a little something, something, and they give you an A.
Yes.
I told you when we built the extension room on this house, when we enclosed the patio, my father hired some cheap ass concrete company, and the concrete that they laid looked like this. And so when we put the frame up and we bolted the sill plate to the concrete, the entire wall had a nice little dip in it that we had to put shims under it. We had to put in almost 2 inches of wood shims. And you know, the inspector came and my father went around the corner with him, and then he came back and holy
Get in a
God.
couple of $100 and you got a passing grade and an approval.
Exactly.
It's like that. I mean, do you think you can build anything in New York without oiling inspectors?
No, and you know, I'm in a fight with the city code here. I can't contact them. They never answer their phone. Their message box is always full. And it turns out they gave me a citation. They gave me a citation, and it turns out that the citation they gave me applies only to commercial buildings, not residential buildings.
Oh, lovely.
What they cited me on is not prohibited in the entire state. So I have to go down there. And it told me that I can request a hearing rather than pay the fine and get them off my back. I can request a hearing by downloading a form. You can't download the form.
And you're gonna go to the office, and they're gonna have a set up like a court, like a regular court, except that the judge will be the inspector who gave you the citation.
Exactly.
And you're gonna be made to argue why this guy should cancel the citation he gave you. And he's going to say, I'm sorry, I understand your point, but the citation stays. But you can appeal. And they're going to keep you on the runaround. And theoretically, unless you have very big pockets, you cannot even go to a judge until you exhaust all of the administrative proceedings that the Supreme Court is already said is bullshit.
Well, I'm just going to go down there and I'm going to write out a letter to the code department, and I'm going to include a copy of the citation. I'm going to say he cited me for a commercial building violation. This is a residential building, so I would appreciate it if you could void this citation. And that's what I'm going to do. And if they tell me that they can't do that, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to say I need to speak to someone in the code department who needs to explain to me why it's valid to cite me for a commercial building violation when I don't live in a commercial building. So but I'm going to be very nice. I've spoken.
No, that's it. And by the way, you have the time. And,
I mean, I'm not going to get into a fight with him.
No, you're of a playful disposition.
Yeah.
In a couple of occasions, I followed these things through the appeals process for a couple of years. And in the meantime, I didn't have to pay shit because it was on appeal.
Yeah.
And and then, I actually went to court and sued them. That was fun. I went to small claims court because the amount of the fines are never too big.
This first fine is $100.
Yeah. So I went to small claims court and sued them for harassment.
Well,
and demanded a payment of $100 in compensation.
See, usually in these situations, it's like you're arguing over 6 inches on the property line or something like that. But in this case, I have the citation. On the citation, he tells me the section of the city code I violated.
Right.
It applies only to commercial buildings. Like this is something that can't be explained by the city code department. So I'm going to make them explain to me why they're applying a commercial code to a residential building. And I'm just going to be dogged, and I'm going to be pleasant, and I'm going to be the smiling guy who comes in and is relentless and does not go for an answer.
The reason they're doing that is because you're one stingy Californian who didn't give a $50 mordida to the inspector.
Well, that's the thing. If worse comes to worse, I'll say, look, can I bribe you? And I'll just say it right out. Can I bribe you? And we'll see.
That doesn't work. That doesn't work. You have to go Mexican style on them.
Well,
this could take too long. Is there any other way we can fix things? I mean, by now we're like friends. Is there anything? Can you do me a favor and get rid of this? And he'll tell you, well, a favor demands another favor or some shit like that. These are Mexicans.
They are. My town is 98% Mexican.
There you go. I can tell you, I can write the script of what's going to be said in that meeting.
It's so deeply. I mean, they want to be taken seriously, and then they cite you for a commercial building violation. It's beyond comprehension. If they want money, they should just tell me, look, I want money. I want to go to McDonald's.
No. If you work for certain government offices, that's not something he'll say. That's why I say he's going to refuse to put an amount. He's going to refuse to call it a quid pro quo.
Whatever. I'm going to leave. I'll just.
It's like a police officer in Mexico City. He won't tell you he wants money. He'll say, it's hot out here. How hot? Well, it would be nice if we could have a cold beer, How many beers do you need? Oh, I think 2 beers would be fine. So you figure out the cost of 1 beer and give them the money for 2. And all of a sudden, you can park anywhere. I had cops take care of my car parked on the sidewalk in Mexico City. And the dialogue, I parked I was going to American Express in the pink zone, and I parked on the sidewalk. After going around a couple of times, it was fucking crazy. I parked on the sidewalk in front of American Express.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a cop standing nearby, so I come out of the car and call him. And he comes over here. He says, I'm coming here to American Express. I'm going to leave the car here for half an hour. Can you please take care of it and make sure nobody takes it away? I says, no, but you cannot park here. I know I can't. That's why I'm calling you to take care of this. I know if I leave the car, you're going to put me a ticket on it and called and tow it away. But I don't want that to happen. That's why I'm coming to you beforehand, and I'm asking you as a friend to take care of my car so nobody puts a ticket or tows it. Oh, well, we could do that, but it's so hot out here. As I tell you what, I'll buy you a 6-pack. Oh, that's okay. Good. So I gave him the equivalent of $10. And when did my thing? When I came out, the cop was still on the car, making sure that nobody ticketed it.
Very nice.
That's Mexico. And I'm sorry, but California is resembling this more and more by the second.
Well, the Mexicans call Southern California Upper Mexico.
Yeah, true. It's not Southern California.
No.
It's Northern Mexico. Holy
No,
crap.
and you know, I don't know.
It-
The mind boggles it so much
yeah.
that I mean, Mexico is a country with like outrageous. It's been blessed with so many natural resources, and it's been a mess its entire existence. There was a brief period in the 1950s where you know, there was an idea that maybe Mexico was going to like, you know, clean itself up, but didn't happen.
Nah. No, it is, everything is possible in this world. If I've learned anything, everything is possible. So is it possible that Mexico will clean up its act? Yes. Is it likely that we're going to still be alive when it happens? No.
No, I mean, all you have to do is look at the hostility that greets any kind of improvement. The whole idea that Trump is a net negative is I mean, it's outrageously dishonest. And he's been painted as a net negative by people who would themselves benefit from his you know, his ideology, his machinations. And it's just so strange that you can't. I mean, okay, I'm at the point now where, I mean, I was never much of a political discussion guy with opposing viewpoints. I never was that interested in it. But now it's like I wouldn't even bother. I wouldn't bother. That there's all these people on TikTok complaining that they made videos on TikTok saying that you know, all Trump supporting customers should fuck off, and when they fucked off, their business is suffering, and it's like, I don't know what to do. And it's like, well,
Start by not telling your customers to fuck off, you moron.
yeah. That idiot who played Snow White, she made a video saying, you know, I don't need Trump supporters' business. Like, she's killed her career before it even got off the ground.
No, fuck them. You know, I really enjoy when these things happen. Couple more things here. Which will be the 51st state? Mexico or Canada? Neither. Perish the thought.
That was just a Trump joke.
Of course. He was trolling the Canadians, and now people are actually speculating on it. Neither. And by the way, who the fuck wants either one? Can you imagine Mexico sending 2 senators?
Well, what
And
about
Canada,
Canada?
the other 2? We're gonna get another 4 communists in the Senate. We're never gonna get a law passed.
What about Canada?
Ever.
They would like consider AOC and what the hell's her name? The Somali. I always forget her
Ilhan
name.
Omar.
Ilhan Omar. Yeah, they consider them conservatives.
Yes, I know. It's like, oh, give me a fucking break, man. So no, not ever, not fucking ever. So now that we've answered that one, and somebody says we get whatever we need from them. No, what we need from them is peace and fucking quiet. I don't want any more Quebecois in Miami. Actually, Fort Lauderdale.
Are they loud and obnoxious? Are they loud and obnoxious?
They're loud and obnoxious, and they're arriving already. So you see all of these middle-aged men, kind of like you and me, in fucking Speedos.
Ooh.
At the beach, listening to music played with banjos and sang in French.
Perfect.
And they're very loud music or wherever they are. And it's like, give me a fucking break. Between those and the Russians, I've already had enough. And we're not at Christmas yet. When I was living in this area, the moment I saw the first Quebecois in Speedos, I would hit the road and go to New Hampshire. Now I can't do it for reasons that you know well, and therefore I don't go to the beach. I don't go anywhere near the shore. And when I hear these people, I just walk in the opposite direction. My God. And the rest of Canada is not much better, frankly. They can keep it.
I saw a French Canadian movie, and it was the weirdest thing because they were all driving American cars. The architecture was all totally American.
Oh yes.
It looked for all the world like a neighborhood in Boston or something like that. But everyone was dressed in Levi's, and they were all smoking Marlboros, and they were eating cheeseburgers. But everybody spoke French, and the I got to find out this guy's name. There was some French singer. He was a man, and he sang this horrible talking song. What the hell was it? French singers. Edith Piaf, Johnny Halliday, Charles Aznavour, Serge. Oh God.
Charles Aznavour.
That's it.
That is.
How did you know?
From my infancy. Hmm?
Yep. So the patriarch.
But not Charles Aznavour. He's not Canadian. He was a.
The patriarch in this movie. His party trick at all the family get-togethers was he would sing. He'd put on Charles Aznavour and sing, talk his way through this horribly cheesy, goosebump-inducing song, and everyone would go, "Oh!" and I don't know. It said to me that I was not the sort of person who should visit Quebec.
But Aznavour is not from Quebec.
I know he's French,
Yeah.
but
Actually,
the
he's
boss
Greek.
spoke French.
Actually, he's a Greek who sang in French and became famous in France, like Nana Mouskouri.
Yep.
And in the 60s, he was, oh God, he was everywhere.
Yeah, he was. I don't know. He wasn't my cup of tea.
No, he wasn't mine either. He's a type of music that I don't like. Although there are a couple of interesting songs. But then again, when somebody records a few hundred songs, there's bound to be a couple that are nice.
Yeah, I just no, my father played a lot of music that it was songs that I'd never heard before and I never wanted to hear again. He was actually a musical prodigy, which I didn't know. Prodigy, which I didn't know until after he died. And most of his music was really good, his music collection, but he had some of the weirdest, like Charles Aznavour type music. There was some German orchestra guy who played like he played like sort of standards, but in the swinging style. Like he did a song called Swingin' Safari. He did mostly instrumentals. What the hell was his name? Do you ever hear Swingin' Safari? And it was this horrible music, just ghastly. Bert Camford, that was his name. Bert Camford and his orchestra.
Oh God.
Yeah, Bert Camford.
I'd never even heard of the guy.
He had like a 50-year career, and he was famous for not paying his musicians, but because to work with the Bert Camford Orchestra, oh boy, that put you on the map. But I would listen to this stuff and I would just be like huddled over, just kind of trying to have the music just glance off of me. Yeah, Charles Aznavour. I don't know. There's a certain type of music that is embraced. It has like a cheese quotient, a smarm quotient that really gets to me, that I just can't. Now
I'm gonna make it even worse. For European women, Charles Aznavour was a sex symbol.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Have you seen Charles Aznavour?
Oh yeah.
He's like a fucking butcher from Marseille.
Yeah.
It gives ugly people hope.
Well,
that he can become a sex symbol.
The Europeans, when I lived in the Netherlands moved there in 75 and left in 78, they had like the Dutch music, the Dutch pop music was horrible. They had like Corrie van Horp or something like that.
Van Hoor. I like that one.
Well, she sang this song. The English translation was "I want to be as thin as my daughter," but it was like this da 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 da, and I was just like, they're listening to this in 1975, like, and this is on the pop. I was into Led Zeppelin. It was like, I wanted to listen to Radio Caroline and broadcasting from offshore, but the Dutch. I heard some of the weirdest music in my life watching the Dutch Top of the Pops shows. Just bizarre music that you couldn't comprehend why anyone would love this stuff. And these were the hits. These were the top 10 songs that week in the Netherlands in 1975. It was going from Tyler, Texas to from Rijswijk, the Netherlands. You want to talk about culture clash. The only thing in common with Tyler and Rijswijk was that we lived in houses that had vertical walls and had roofs. That was about the only thing we had in common with the Dutch. Yeah. Sexy Charles Aznavour.
Apparently, Liza Minnelli was by the way, Liza Minnelli in this picture must be on her knees.
Yeah. No, he's a little guy.
He was a dwarf. There we go. And I have something else to show you. Let me see if it shows okay, because I just noticed we may have a little bit of a problem here. Oh, okay. No, it's not so much of a problem. I have to show you this before the clock falls on our heads. What we were discussing about the Druze wanted to be annexed by Israel. This is the meeting of the 5 villages where they discussed this and came up with that resolution.
شو مصيرنا؟ انا مغرب حيقولنا اسرائيل كلها على اسرائيل شو مصيرنا يا اخوتي؟
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
هذا الجميع والخالق هذا لا يقول الخالق هذا لا يقول نحن يا عمي اذا خيرنا لاسرائيل فعليك باختيار الشر الأول وان كان هذا شر يعني المفروض احنا نطلب ضمن للجولين ولكن اقل بكثير من الشر اللي جاي علينا.
And that's perfect sense, by the way, for them
الشر اللي جاي علينا بدهم ياخذوا نسواننا يا عمي، بدهم ياخذوا بناتنا، بدهم ياخذوا بيوتنا، فنحن بدنا نحفظ مين اللي بيحفظ لنا كرامتنا، نحن معه. الشر الاسد سلم راح، شو بدنا ما عادش فنحن اذا بيختار يعني اذا بيسمح الله للجميع. اهالي واللي عم يصور يصور واللي عم يسجل
I don't know
يسجل
if you
عم
notice,
يشتغل.
this is the moment where they actually proposed the idea to the councils.
Sure.
Bashar al-Assad left us, so we have nothing. If you permit me, I would like to propose.
Uh-huh.
And whoever is recording this, record. I don't mind. We ask to be annexed to the Israeli Golan to preserve our dignity. And everybody
فضلوني التصوير مثل ما ذكرتوا المناسب بقرية الحضر نحن معك. فهذا الحكي يعني مسند فيه من باقي الاقليم اليه من باقي الاقليم اليه لانه مصير حضر هو مصير حضر هو.
And this is what we were talking about. The many more villages that would be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
The fate of Hadar is the fate of its surrounding area, so we make this extensive to the surrounding village. They want to live in freedom and dignity like the Druze in the Golan Heights under Israeli control.
Mm-hmm.
And free from injustice and oppression. Then the injustice of Bashar the dog, obviously there is no love lost for Assad, and the injustice of the people who are coming and threatening us and want to take our children. Okay. What do you think?
Well, I mean, okay, the whole area is in flux. So all of the Middle East is in flux. But in these marches I've been seeing in Syria that are overseen by HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, I've seen women out there marching. In Gaza, you never see women out there at all. I mean, the only time you see women is when they're pretending to cry at somebody's funeral or at
some Hollywood production.
Yeah. And I've seen young women out in Syria. As of yet, they're all wearing hijabs. I think everybody is just they're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. And who could blame them? HTS is descended from Al Qaeda, so the guy running it is now.
And they're not the only ones who are coming either.
Yeah. I mean, a whole shitload of them are coming, but the guy running HTS is giving interviews wearing Western clothes. He's no longer using his jihadi nom de guerre.
Yeah.
He's using his birth name. So who knows? I mean, we have to see.
And he comes from this area.
Yeah, he's a Syrian. His name means he's from the Golan Heights.
He's from the Golan Heights. He's from the area where this is happening.
Yeah. So we have to see what's going to happen. The reason that the Syrian civil war lasted as long as it did was Assad and the Russians are incompetent buffoons, and the U.S. policy at the time was as if by design just prolong the war without helping. I mean, we had the army training one group of rebels, the State Department another, the CIA another, and then when they were done training, they all went out and either started fighting each other or defected to the Islamic State. I mean, it was.
Come on. Back in the day, we had the CIA training Al-Nusra, ISIS, and the Pentagon training Al-Nusra.
Well, see,
I'm talking about 2015.
ideologically, okay, now the Turks have what they call the, I don't know, the Army of National something.
Yeah,
It's jihadists, it's Islamists, and
of course.
they're trying to make
It's
war.
ISIS, literally.
They're trying to make war against the Kurds and the Syrian Democratic Forces. We haven't started bombing them yet, but when Trump gets in, there's no doubt that he's going to have a heart to heart with Mr. Erdogan and tell him, look, we can bomb you just as easily as we can bomb anybody else. So fuck off. I mean, the 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 Turks talk big about doing things for their Muslim brothers, but they're actually doing things against the Kurds who they despise and think of as subhuman.
They're
So
doing things against the Turks.
what?
They're doing things against the Turks. There is a reason why Erdogan has been losing elections for the past 3 years. And he will probably lose the next parliamentary elections by a lot. His days are counted. And all of this shit he's trying to do is like all of these assholes. He's trying to gain in popularity at home by projecting onto an enemy abroad.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to backfire because his army is not as incompetent as the Russians. They do receive some NATO training and all that jazz, but it's not a real army either.
Well, the Turks are good when it comes down to the individual soldier. I mean, this has been the case since the Ottoman Empire. The Germans had nothing but praise for the individual Ottoman soldier, but fighting as an army is basically out. It's impossible for them. It's out of their league.
And I see that in the chat somebody says, like so many repeat online, he wants his Ottoman Empire back. No, number one is not his Ottoman Empire. And Turkey is as much an heir of the Ottoman Empire as Egypt or Algiers or Syria or Jordan or any one of the other parts of the Ottoman Empire that became countries. It wasn't really the Western powers drawing the lines. The lines were the lines that existed in the Ottoman Empire dividing the provinces, the vilayets, for instance. Whatever Erdogan wants, Erdogan, contrary to what some people believe, is not a dictator. He's a prime minister in a parliamentary democracy where he has been losing power and will soon be replaced by people who want to return to the secularist Turkey of Kemal Atatürk. And it's going to happen. Now, you can identify Turkey with Erdogan. Fortunately, that's not the case. He represents a relatively small minority of Turkey who, through certain alliances and deals and the support at one time of people like Fethullah Gulen, was able to climb to power, and through a policy of socialism, he's a collectivist, he's a socialist, he's no different than Ocasio-Cortez. A populist collectivist movement that managed to obtain the support of the most ignorant among the Turks. But don't say that he represents Turkey. He does not. And it will soon become evident. Ay. Anyway, the time is up, my friend. It's been up for a little while.
Oh.
I didn't notice until now. We've been on air for 3 hours and 14 minutes.
Oh,
Holy crap.
that's a
Uh,
long time.
Tempus fugit. So, before we go, people, remember, every time some of you click the support button here in uh, uh, at the Odyssey site, or subscribe to my timeline in Twitter at the Brotherlie, or make a donation at sqv.quadverum.com/support us. A Democrat shits his pants. So make the Democrats have diarrhea and support us. And thank you for those who did. Indeed, another $10 would make it round, maybe, hopefully, before we go. And thank you to everybody who did tonight. Thank you to those who will once we go on demand. And thank you to all the viewers out there. And that's it for me. So, Thomas, do you have a last word for us today?
Endogenous.
Endogenous. I like that word. I actually use that one frequently.
Ah.
Yes. We'll discuss that later so we don't tip the scales here. Endogenous. Thank you so much. And good night, folks.